fighter in the history of the sport where you know their first 5 fights. If you didn't know Floyd's first 5, you didn't know Tyson's first 5. The impact that I'm able to have here on this sport, setting a new standard for what it takes to be successful. I probably needed more experience to go in with a champion like this. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's not advised. I love a challenge. I want to do the unthinkable. I want to baffle people, and I want to upset people, because that's what turns heads. That's what creates history. That's what makes people respect me for taking a massive risk. I'm not afraid to earn it. I'm not afraid of the uphill battle. It's either step up to the plate or be a bitch. I'm not going to be a bitch ever. Respectfully, I will knock out one of the greatest fighters in the history of combat sports. The Disney kid, the YouTuber, the not a real fighter. They're not going to believe it.
The fight they said Jake Paul would never take. MMA legend Anderson Sylve in his future. It all goes down Saturday night in the arena behind us, Glendale, Arizona. Jake Paul versus Anderson Sylve, only on Showtime pay-per-view. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, we are the co-hosts of the award-winning Showtime digital series Morning Combat. But Luke, we are on the grounds, just steps outside of the arena for today's Paul Silva open workout. You can expect big names, big interviews alongside us, and getting to see the stars of Saturday night's pay-per-view. Work it out a little, if you will.
Yeah, work it out a little bit. I mean, it's all for fun. It's all for the fans. It's all to promote the event. But I am curious to see what Silva looks like. We saw him for the initial press conference in L.A. a little while ago, but here we are, 47 years of age. What kind of shape is he in just days away from the fight? And the same for Jake Paul. What kind of mindset does he have with the biggest test of his career just days away as well?
Absolutely. Fights fell apart for Jake Paul. Everyone's saying, hey, fight a real boxer. Well, he's doing a little bit of both this time around. The MMA legend Anderson Sylve, 47 years young. And I say that because he's pivoted, transitioned away from arguably the most successful and decorated MMA career in that sport's history, coming to boxing, upset Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and here we are. The toughest test for Jake to date. We've seen those betting odds go back and forth. What has been the prevailing thought process in the fans' minds heading into this showdown? It feels like the fan bases are very split.
Well, that's exactly it, right? Like, so, for example, we were talking about this today on our podcast, Morning Combat, where Anderson Sylve started out as the betting favorite and now has ended up as the slight underdog. Jake is now the favorite. So I think if you're a Jake Paul fan, you got to love that news. If you're an MMA fan, MMA fans are incredulous. Well, I should say this. MMA fans just don't believe anything other than Anderson Silva is going to win triumphantly. So there's a real question here about exactly what to expect. And BC, we've been saying this as well. Fans are going to have their preferences. Boxing media is going to say what they're going to say. Same with MMA media. But the reality is nobody has any idea what to make about this, which is part of the intrigue. Really,
let's be fair. This is maybe not your traditional boxing match between a 5-0 fighter and Jake Paul, one that's 3-1 as a professional in Anderson Sylve, although he's had some exhibitions outside of that. It's not your typical build to a fight like this. It's not going to be your typical audience. And in this case, the entertainment value is so closely directed into what we don't know. Is this a step too far in Jake Paul's rise, where he's achieved the type of commercial success at this point in his career that most pro fighters never see? But is Anderson Sylve someone his size, someone with detailed, decorated experience, too much? And on the flip side, how much should we focus, Luke Thomas, on that number 47 for the old Spider himself?
I mean, you definitely can't ignore it. I think the betting odds have flipped in large part, frankly, honestly, because of it. But the reality is, we've been telling you guys about this. Like, yes, was the end of the UFC run by Anderson Sylve the very best part of his run? No, certainly not. That was not in any way a great indication of the better moments of what he has done, which for folks who may not know, he has a legitimate claim to being the very best UFC, even MMA fighter of all time. So while I don't want to not mention that 47 is relevant, it is quite relevant. The reality is he was 46 when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Watch the tape for yourself. Did that look like a 46-year-old guy to you? It certainly did not to me.
He went into Mexico in the backyard of the son of a legend in Chavez Jr., who himself, a former world champion legitimately at middleweight in boxing. And he pulled the upset that kept his hopes and career going at this age and opened up more opportunities. And you have to love the unknown because we don't really know what this is going to look like. Here's what we do know, though. It's going to be 8 rounds. It's going to take place at a catch weight of 187 pounds. And it's going to be the main event of a very interesting pay-per-view come Saturday night that you can only purchase. Go to showtime.com/PPV. Get ahead of the game. Order it right now. Main card begins 9 p.m. Eastern come Saturday night. But it's not just Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. Which undercard, matchup, storyline, personality has you the most focused heading into this?
I will be honest, and this won't come as much of a mistake as someone who spent the majority of his career covering MMA. It's Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall taking on Le'Veon Bell, the former very, very accomplished NFL running back. Le'Veon Bell had a somewhat of a noteworthy fight, but then a very interesting finish of Adrian Peterson, certainly in his boxing debut. And Uriah Hall retired recently from MMA, or certainly was done with UFC. Honestly, I thought he was going to be out of combat sports, not because he looked poor or anything. I just think it seemed like at the end of his UFC run, listen to the words that I'm saying, it seemed like he maybe had his fill of it, which no shame. Everyone has their time in the sport and then they're done with it. His last fight in the UFC, and I think this is pretty important, it was against a grappler who was all over him. And that guy won. He's a very accomplished grappler on top of it. But Uriah Hall's a striker. And so now he doesn't necessarily have to worry about some of those same restrictions about what he can do. Yeah, the rule set is smaller in terms of what your available weapons are, BC, but it's catered to the kinds of things that a guy like him enjoys.
And that's the appeal, to be really honest, of this level of celebrity crossover matchmaking. There's obviously so much we don't know. It's harder to honestly have a true prediction on who's going to come over the top because you look at a matchup like Uriah Hall versus Le'Veon Bell. Well, Hall's got the much deeper combat experience, but when you look up Uriah Hall highlights, you'll see some spinning back kicks in there and some crazy stuff like that. Then you got somebody like Le'Veon Bell who one-punch KO'd Adrian Peterson. Is this just a side hobby that can give him some thrills, or is this somebody who's starting to realize, hey, I can make a little bit of money, I can win at this level? We're going to have to find out. There's no shortage of celebrity factor beyond that.
I was going to say, too, real quickly, if I can, what you brought up was right. The fight odds certainly give Hall a pretty substantial favorite, which is fine. He's certainly the far more decorated combat athlete. But if you look at the striking of Uriah Hall, I guarantee you he's much happier to not have to worry about the grappling and all that. But he is a little bit more kickboxer than boxer, and that makes this twist somewhat more interesting.
Yeah, well, this public workout that we are that has started behind us. You saw the unbeaten super bantamweight prospect, Adrian Rodriguez, behind us getting warmed up. He's a local product out of Arizona for his fight on the undercard. But we got fans here in this area. So we're at the steps outside of the Desert Diamond Arena. Right beyond that, Luke, is the Arizona Cardinals football stadium. You got a nice public setting here.
You missed it. When you were doing the intros, you ever seen those dogs made by Boston Dynamic?
No.
The robot dogs? You never seen them?
I have seen the Problem Bot, Jake Paul's mascot.
Yeah, I've seen that guy too. But no, the Boston Dynamic dog walked by. One of the most random things I've ever seen. Hey, is the sun out in Arizona? I can't tell.
Well, I'll tell you, there's nothing more beautiful than a November day in Arizona. I mean, what are we in October still? We're counting down the days here. But fall, maybe winter, you can understand why people. Very beautiful backdrop here. The point is, I'm trying to say, we got plenty of fans over here. We've also got some luminaries in the combat sports journalism world. I think I saw the Schmo kicking back around here.
Schmo's there, Danny Segura and Jose
no
Young.
question. It feels like a big event, but another featured matchup that I was setting up is, how about this guy, Dr. Mike? Mikhail Sharvowski. How do we say his last name?
I really would be butchering it, but Dr. Mike is what he's well known by.
Sharvowski, but he's Dr. Mike on the internet, 22 million combined subscribers. He's got a fight experience that really only includes a charity bout in which he won earlier this year. He's going to be stepping in there against Chris Avila of the Nick Diaz Army. So in terms of kind of wild roll-the-dice matchups, you got that. You've got the traditional boxing road of seeing a 7-0 prospect like 18-year-old Ashton Sylve fight. So you get a little bit of everything with Jake Paul and MVP Promotions. And we're going to interview everyone. We're going to see everybody work out behind us. Should be a fun time.
Yes, the whole idea is to have fun here. I think it is certainly true that Jake Paul has raised the stakes of his own career in terms of what he's attempting by taking on Anderson Silva, and that carries with it some seriousness. And by the way, it's boxing. The stakes are always serious when you get to boxing, given what could happen if something goes wrong. But at the same time, obviously, there's a little more, I think it's fair to say, a little more levity overall to this event than there would be for some kind of grudge match between two of the very best in their respective divisions.
As mentioned, that 4-bout pay-per-view main card goes down Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Showtime pay-per-view. But little appetizer early on. How about 7 p.m. Eastern about?
Yes.
You and I, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, going to be calling the fights during our Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown preliminary show. We got well-matched fights. We're going to get some celebrity guests. It should be a fun time. You can check that out on the Showtime Sports and Jake Paul YouTube channel, same place as you are watching this live stream right now. Luke, Jake Paul is he still 26 years old? I mean, it is just
pretty young.
5-0 when he says, hey, criticize me all you want, but nobody's really done this through 5 fights. Been consistently a pay-per-view draw. I love when he says, pick your favorite boxer. Who are the first 5 guys he fought? And at that point, you are kind of picking your brain. We know he's ahead of the game in terms of being able to control himself in the moment, the poise, the ability to rise to the occasion like he did in December of last year, knocking out Tyron Woodley in 1 punch in their rematch. But we are talking a lot about potentially biting off more than you can chew. How much can we expect Jake Paul to have grown in 10, 11 months since we last saw him?
It's a great point. So 2 things I would say. When you argue, for example, hey, who are the first 5 guys that Canelo fought? Who could name them? Probably no one. But the response to that would be, I think, quite fairly, right, but when did Canelo start?
Yeah.
Right, what age did he start? That would be a little bit different. Right.
Canelo.
Exactly. This is my point, quite obviously. So I did a bit of a tape study. You can check it out. I did a Jake Paul scouting report, and I looked at the first and second Tyron Woodley fights to see what we could find out. BC, what I would say in answer to the question was, and that was roughly 4 months or so apart, he was able to clean up a lot of his footwork. He favors the body shots. He was much better about defensive clinching. He just made fewer defensive errors by far, and didn't quite get his offense going until he uncorked that bomb that closed the whole show. Well, it's been 10 months since then. So if he can make those kinds of improvements in 4 months, what can he do in 10 months? And also, we discussed this today. Remember, he was supposed to fight Hasim Rahman Jr. It didn't happen. Maybe the Tommy Fury fight was going to happen. It didn't happen. He's had multiple camps with no fight back to back. I wonder what that amount of sparring, that amount of training, that amount of getting ready for something does in terms of peaking for this. But, of course, the other issue there is he can train all he wants every day for 10 months. You can't match the experience and then all the training a guy like Anderson Silva has done, not even close. Well, so we'll see.
We wouldn't be this confident, to be fair, in talking up the potential of Anderson Silva, being competitive and winning this match. And as we mentioned, the odds, they flip-flopped. There seems to be a very split and polarizing reaction. It was actually Jake who started out as the betting favorite. It switched to Anderson. It's back to Jake for what's that's worth. But the reason why you have this confidence about Anderson, if you're following combat sports as closely as we are, is what is the hardest thing to do in recent years for whether it's a fighter, an NFL star, to transition to boxing? A lot of times it's the footwork. Conor McGregor did as well as somebody can be expected to in 2017 in that super fight with Floyd Mayweather, lasting to the 10th round or so when he was stopped. But even he had troubles with the stance and changing the positioning of his footwork to be able to land power shots. He got off clean shots, not necessarily firm power ones. If anything, Anderson Silva has made that transition look like nothing. And maybe some of that is he's always trained boxing just as much as of his other disciplines in mixed martial arts. His first pro fight was in the 1990s, just as an example. But in this cage, age actually may not matter in the end, because what we've seen from him in boxing recently, look, can he fight as hard as he needs to every single minute of the fight at this age? No. But he can pick his spots. He can counter with shots you don't see coming. He's the same size as Jake, which I think can't be overlooked as well.
I think from a frame standpoint, he's even bigger.
Yeah.
For the overall frame. Also, something that we should talk about as well is, what about the chin? What about damage? Now, it looked to me like with what Chavez gave him, Anderson Silva was largely able to take it without much issue. I think Jake is going to have a claim to being certainly a hard hitter, harder than Chavez Jr. I have no idea. We'll see. But Anderson Silva also has a lot of miles on him. 40. You don't get to 47, hey, without some tread on the tires being taken off.
All right. Well, Luke, sorry to interrupt you. Let's go up to the ring. We've got Ramblin' Ralph in the house. Let's do this.
All right, guys, I'm here with Suavecito Rodriguez. Brother, you're born and raised here right in Glendale, Arizona. Your last fight was right down the street here. And everywhere you go, whether it was the amateurs or the pros, you bring a huge crowd. There's a bunch of people here that came to see you work out. How does it feel, bro? You're your third professional fight opening up Paul versus Silva.
Feels great, man. Third fight, fighting here, fighting on the undercard of Jake Paul. Very grateful, and I'm very thankful for you guys to show up. I appreciate it very much, and I'm grateful for it.
10-time national champion, but some people here may not know your style and what you're about. Give these guys just a quick glimpse of what you're about and what they're going to see here when they come watch you fight on Saturday.
Hey, man, I like to put on a show for y'all. I'm a pressure fighter, so I'm going to go forward. If I need to be technical, I'll be technical, but I want to give you guys a good show, and I don't want you guys to be bored in the stands. And I want to hear Suavecito from the back.
All right, guys, give a round of applause for Adrian Suavecito Rodriguez. He'll be opening up the card tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. on Saturday. Thanks, buddy.
Ramblin' Ralph with the in-ring interview with young Adrian Rodriguez, just 2-0. Jake Paul has been given a lot of opportunities to many fighters, whether it's the push and promotion of Amanda Serrano, one of the most decorated fighters in boxing history on the women's side, or signing a young prospect like Ashton Sylve, who we'll see behind us warming up shortly, who's coming on in the more traditional boxing sense. But as we continue to circle around this matchup, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, and what we love about it so much is the unknown. But that transition to boxing for Anderson, it's been as smooth as we laid out. He's picked up wins on the exhibition side. What are the concerns for Team Silva when you're facing someone like Jake Paul, where you feel like you know him? You did that great dissected clip. You talked about it on our Morning Combat YouTube channel. There's unknown still about how good Jake can get. We already set that up. But he's not a traditional boxer to prepare for. So that's also part of this.
Right, it's just a mystery about, certainly to your point about what you're going to get, and also exactly what his weaknesses are.
Yeah.
You can identify them in the first and second Woodley fight. They're not exactly hard to find in that sense. But again, some of them were cleaned up between the first and second Woodley fight. I'm going to imagine even more of them are. But you can have all different kinds of, for lack of a better description, pressure points. That what happens in the 6th and 7th round if someone pressures you against the ropes or baits you into certain kind of traps. You just don't know how exactly they're going to react. Here's the other part, too. Listen, Tyron Woodley did land a couple of big bombs on him.
The first fight, he wobbled him.
He wobbled him, and the ropes kind of saved him. You could argue maybe it should have been a knockdown. It wasn't in the technical sense. But the point I want to make was, Jake's never been, super tired in a fight. No one's ever really made him work. No one's ever dropped him with a body shot. We just don't know some of the answers to some of these bigger questions that you get when someone's got 20, 25 fights, and then they start getting on the show boxes and things like that. There's just a lot of unknowns about where exactly the Jenga pieces will fall when you pull one out.
Who's got more pressure on them, Anderson Silva or Jake Paul? Not just to win.
Jake Paul by a million
Well, because
miles.
I wanted to add, too, and at this level, look, it's boxing. You could end up a meme. Ben Askren ended his MMA career, took on Jake Paul. We didn't really know what it looked like. It looked like one punch, and it was a flatline KO, more or less.
Yeah.
Is there that type of pressure on Anderson to avoid that just as much as on Jake?
I certainly recognize that Anderson Silva has some pressure on him. He has said, he told us this when we talked to him in LA for the debut press conference, I'm not representing the MMA community, I'm representing myself. Fair enough. But the reality is this. We talk about Ben Askren. Sure, he got knocked out by Jake Paul. But here's the truth as well. He was a Dan Hodge Trophy winner, which is the best wrestler in NCAA wrestling per season, irrespective of weight class. He won it twice. He was an NCAA champion. He was an Olympic team member. You can't take that away from him.
Yes.
So he achieved, as a combat sports athlete, extraordinary heights. Certainly at the end of his run, that didn't go so well when he met Jake Paul, but none of the other great things he did went away. Jake is still trying to do great things. In terms of not the size and spectacle, but the actual accomplishment. Anderson Silva, whether he wins or loses on Saturday, still has a claim to being the very best MMA fighter ever. So it would be embarrassing, let's be very clear. If Jake knocks him out, ooh, that would be embarrassing. And he would absolutely rip the heart out of every MMA fan on earth.
There's a live shot.
But Jake is the one, I think, who has got a little bit more pressure on his shoulders.
A live shot of Danny Barrios Flores, the unbeaten super bantamweight, 10-0. He will be kicking off the featured preliminary portion on the Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown Show, 7:30 p.m. Eastern come Saturday night. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, ourselves will be on the call. He'll be taking on Edgar Ortiz Jr. More pressure on Jake, I'll agree with that, because what we've talked about in trying to hold together this bubble, which may have started with Jake's brother Logan Paul boxing KSI twice. Maybe it escalated with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. both coming out of retirement to fight each other. Jake rode that momentum, took it to the next level. Can the balloon burst? Not just with a loss, because there are levels to losing. There's losses that are bad decisions. There's losses where you show a ton of heart, but you don't get your hand raised. Then there's the other type of losses, the meme losses. Can this balloon be burst for good? Meaning, no future. Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, Canelo Alvarez, all the fights that Jake typically talks about are his dream gets. Could that be over with one lawsuit?
Over seems like a over-exaggeration. But could it be heavily impacted? Yes. I mean, here's the reality. What's a promoter's job? And to be clear, Jake is not just a boxer here. He's a promoter as well. A promoter's job is to put on fights that people want to pay money to see. That's it. That's the job. And so as long as that dynamic is in play where someone can find some kind of weird arrangement between a YouTube guy and an MMA fighter or whatever the an NFL guy and a former UFC fighter, whatever the arrangement, as long as people are interested in seeing it, the fights will continue. However, going back to your previous question about pressure, BC, the whole idea of Jake Paul fighting Anderson Silva is to somewhat answer the critics. UFC President Dana White was like, you should fight Anderson Silva.
But you won't,
But you won't. And here he is doing it. So getting viciously KO'd, if something like that were to happen to Jake, would be a major validation, or at least I would say the critics would take it anyway, as major validation. And so what would that do to people being like, well, how good could he be? Because keep in mind, every time Jake Paul fights, the second time in Woodley fight, not so much, but in general, he's trying to escalate.
Yes.
He's trying to escalate the risk, escalate the tensions, escalate what he's attempting. If you get knocked back down a peg, that doesn't go away, but it is badly affected.
No question about it. There's tremendous pressure on Jake. He's not just carrying the fight card, he's carrying, this bubble of this genre to a large degree. He's carrying his own promotional company, which isn't dependent upon him main eventing and winning, but boy, does it help MVP Promotions to continue to carve out its own space in this. But Jake seems to have been built for that level of pressure. We have to give him that. What do they say about Jake on the inside? The people that train with him, the people that spar with him, is that at the very least he's taking this, forget taking it seriously, he is all in. This has become his life. He's not 5-0 by accident, even if he was fighting the level of opponents that were more commiserate with that, was where he's at. But when you make a lot of noise like Jake does, and you draw a lot of eyeballs, people tend to ask for more, and they tend to ask for more soon, because he's headlining pay-per-views at 4-0, 5-0.
Right.
He's not doing, opening the night off TV.
You can like Jake Paul, or you cannot like Jake Paul. That's up to you. You can respect Jake Paul, or you cannot respect Jake Paul. That's up to you. What you cannot say is he is phoning it in. He's not phoning it in. For better or for worse, whether you like it or not, that is certainly something you cannot take away from him.
Absolutely. And I heard Jake Paul's going to have a spectacular entrance here when it's his time to step into the ring. So
I have not heard that.
Give away any spoilers here, but don't be afraid to check that out. As random media members just kind of float in and
why
out.
don't you just walk into the shot? It's totally okay.
Fun
It's
media event. Everyone is welcome here. Jake Paul, whatever you want to give him as, there's no prerequisite to doing what he's doing, but he was Disney actor. He was very early, even if he, kind of started as Logan's brother, knew how to stand up to a platform, knew how to shine in that platform. It's obviously a little bit different in the boxing ring, but he's put around him, as we talk about so often, the right people. He's got BJ Flores, former cruiserweight title contender. He's got Jalen Love, former title contender, was promoted by Floyd Mayweather. Now, as we saw on All Access, Showtime's documentary series leading up to this fight, Jake Paul's team brought in Bad Chad Dawson, former 2-division champion, former undisputed light heavyweight champion. But the key here is physically, although Chad's pushing 40, he's on the very twilight of his great career. He's a southpaw like Anderson Silva. He's around the same size, having really peaked out at light heavyweight. As Chad said in All Access, if he can land these shots on me, meaning Jake Paul, boy, should he be able to land that on a 47-year-old Anderson Silva.
See, you would think, but I bet Chavez Jr. was saying the same things before all of that, right?
What did Anderson do? Let's give him credit. He countered clean.
Okay, so I've been covering Anderson Silva since he was fighting in Japan, right? Here is one constant you must accept about him. He's weird. He's a weird guy.
I don't see how that's relevant, Luke Thomas.
Right. He fights weird. Even in his fight with Chris Weidman, he was dancing and doing the jig just to kind of throw chaos into it. Against Chavez Jr., he leaned against the ropes in, I think, the third or fourth round and just invited him over. Come on over. He's done that in several UFC fights. He says weird things in the media. When he had a face-off against Vitor Belfort, he put on the Jabberwocky's mask and called him Playboy. He just does strange, unique things. He marches to the beat of his own drum, and that plays out with his footwork, that plays out with his shot selection, that plays out with how he approaches the fight. So
it fuels him in a way, right?
It's part of his identity. He's also, we should point out, a showman. Like,
Yes.
Anderson Silva is going to be here to win for sure, but I also think he would feel like a failure if he didn't give the crowd something to take home from an entertainment standpoint. And that X factor, BC, changes the fight a little bit.
It's crazy. He's won so much and accomplished so much. He still holds the UFC record for 16 consecutive wins. He's still, you know, he's the longest reigning middleweight champion and the most decorated. He's arguably the greatest fighter of all time. All these things that we can talk about. Yet he's more a showman than he even is successful all-time great fighter. Meaning whether it's the front kick against, Belfort, there's so many iconic moments, and we'll be talking to Anderson Silva later today. But let's head it back into the ring. Ramblin' Ralph has another young fighter hungry to make his statement on Saturday night's Undercard.
Danny Barrios Flores. Danny, I know you quite well. I live here. I watch you fight almost every single fight that you've had. You're 10-0. You're grinding. What does it mean to you, man, to be opening up the Showtime YouTube channel, prelims live all over the world, man?
It means a lot, I've always dreamed of fighting in a big-ass stage like this. I may not be the open bout for pay-per-view, but you know what? I'm opening the bout for YouTube channel. Let's go. It's Showtime.
Now, you got a chance to go to one of the high schools here locally with Jake Paul. You got to see what he does as far as bringing the crowds in, being around people. Did you learn anything from that for your future, man?
Actually, I did. Just the way he was expressing himself. When we went over there at the Glendale High School, I feel like he did a good-ass job with the speech, Shout out to Leonard over there. He's the one that I got in contact with him and, made everything happen.
You've been training with the Ramos family about a year now. What has that done for you, your skill set, and for your future?
I've been training with him for almost 6 months already, and a lot of people tell me that I've gained a lot of experience just being with them for over the 6 months. I've never been this in shape, so I know a lot of you guys have been to my recent fights. I haven't really been this in shape. But now I'm in shape, and thank you to them. Thank you to the Team Ramos team that brought me into their camp, and I feel amazing.
All right, guys, catch him live on Showtime YouTube, opening the prelims live all over the world Saturday. Round of applause for Danny Barrios Flores.
All right, LT and BC back with you. Co-host of Morning Combat, of course, that award-winning combat sports digital show. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you to everybody checking out this live stream. Of course, those people watching on Jake Paul's TikTok channel streaming live, Showtime Sports Instagram, Showtime Sports TikTok. I mean, any age, Jake Paul finds a way to connect with you.
The youngs, they're on. Are you on TikTok, BC?
I'm not on TikTok. I'm 44 years old. I mean, I do have to draw a limit at some point.
TikTok is missing nothing by us being absent from it.
I would say that, although we do have a Morning Combat channel at TikTok, so check that out. But you hear the young fighters. We're going to get a chance to talk to them here. Jake presenting opportunities for so many people. Do you think, I guess not do you think, what does Jake Paul have to do to get the boxing community, the hardcores, to fully embrace him? Is it beat Anderson Silva, or is it much more work beyond that?
Probably more work beyond that, but we just saw El Carita. He told us, we had a pre-show meeting with him, and he told us he was grateful for Jake Paul to be here because he can finally get some attention that he feels like has been overlooked. He's not been given some of the opportunities he felt like he was due. So one, that would help. Number two, I think one thing he can keep doing that he's been doing is shining a light on women's boxing. We have, in fact, the fight we're calling on the prelims.
Let's get that matchup right.
To that effect.
Ogleides Suarez from Venezuela, two-time title challenger, is going to take on 10-0 Shadesha Green. Shadesha Green. If you're a women's college basketball fan, she was a standout for Old Dominion. She was a U.S. Olympian at heavyweight. So, yes, giving fighters that in some degree promotionally or however slip through the cracks, Jake's giving them a chance to shine. That's a legitimate women's boxing match with somewhat of a future title consideration for the winner.
Yeah, Green is an interesting fighter, to put it mildly. She has big power. You look at her record, she sends them to the land of wind and ghosts with a regularity, a great athlete in college. And we asked her about, like, how relevant is college basketball experience for this? And she pointed out that she played against the University of Tennessee when Pat Summitt was coaching there. The venue was full. They're, chanting at their bus. It was really this
overwhelming. Didn't she mention
thing.
That Pat Summitt was overheard saying that Shadesha's a problem?
And that's it. And Shadesha showed up and actually showed out. And so she got mentioned by Pat Summitt after it, even though she was on the opposing team. She's been under the bright lights of competitive pressure and answered it just fine. I think that kind of thing is going to suit her well on this operation on Saturday night.
Ogleides Suarez, Shadesha Green, part of our Showtime Championship Boxing countdown preliminary action, 7:30
Another
p.m.
hungry
Eastern.
fighter.
Danny Barrios Flores, who you just saw in the ring, will be kicking off that card as we'll set the stage inside the Desert Diamond Arena behind us, leading to all things Jake Paul, Anderson Silva. You gotta know, you gotta see it. You gotta see it. You just gotta see what it looks like. Did Jake bite off more than he could chew? Does Anderson still have it? Is Nate Diaz next? We know he'll be here.
Yes,
for
Chris
his
Avila,
teammate,
yep.
Chris Avila of the Nick Diaz Army, who's taking on Dr. Mike. But when you're Jake Paul and when we're talking about, he's trying to do a lot. He's trying to serve a lot of masters at once, right? He's trying to sell events that matter, which is why him reaching up, competition-wise for Anderson was serious, because he said this was the biggest fight I can make at this moment, right? Nate was still under contract with the UFC when this fight was being set up. Conor McGregor still over there, the sort of dream opponents for Jake Paul. He went big here. He went big in Anderson Silva. So 9 p.m. Eastern, Saturday night, only on Showtime pay-per-view. We are going to find that out. But when it comes to really winning over the boxing public, it may take beating an active, accomplished boxer. But I think at this point, when he's still 5-0, this will be his 6th pro fight on Saturday. Is it actually more to gain critically beating an Anderson Silva, who just done a couple decent things in the boxing ring, than beating some 9-0 cruiserweight we've never heard of? It's hard to criticize this step up in matching when he tried to get Tommy Fury, he tried to get Hasim Rahman Jr.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tommy fumbled, but the fight didn't happen, all right?
See, here's the thing. I don't know what would be better for his long-term development. I don't know how much Jake Paul wants to do this long-term, to be quite honest with you. But I would say this. If he beats Anderson Silva, it will outstrip the level of credibility he's had beating anyone else by light years. By light years. Tyron Woodley was a decorated champion. In fact, he was one of the better welterweight champions, which is, for folks who may not know, the welterweight division in MMA is one of the better ones overall. It's 170 pounds. And that's impressive that Jake beat him, but he was a little bit more of a guy who, I try to explain this to folks, he was a counter striker, but he was more of this, imagine a football team that used the run to set up the pass, right? If you just take away the run, how effective is the pass? It's not nearly as effective, and so you lose something there in translation when it goes to boxing. Well, Anderson Silva isn't just a good striker. He had previous boxing experience before fighting Chavez, then fought Chavez, and has done some other exhibitions as well. And on top of that is just naturally here's the other part too about being a striker, BC. What kind of striker is he? Yeah. He's a very creative striker. He's a very unusual striker. He can strike from long distances, off rhythm, on the half beat. Real clever in that way.
Absolutely, and I think this is a big part too. We normally talk about this when we're talking about fighters fighting people in the Nick Diaz army, which is the mental game. Can they lure you in? Anderson Silva, as you talked about earlier, Luke, has lured in people. Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner, when he moved up to 205 pounds in the UFC. Luring them in with those, as you see, Chris Avila, NDA in effect, Nick Diaz army. There's mind games. Can Anderson lure Jake into fighting scenarios in the corner, for example, that he doesn't want to be in? And Jake's credit, he talked about that on All Access and said, I've been watching him too long on TV. I'm not going to get lured in. But what about when you trade a couple clean shots? What about when it stops being polite and starts getting real? This has been a polite build with Anderson Silva and Jake Paul. What about when they start trading, Luke? Is that when the mind games can come in the heat of the moment? Anderson Silva luring you into his web?
That's right. So Anderson ratchets up the mind games as the mind games as the punishment or something successful works. He found a little weakness, more mind games. Attack more of the weakness, more mind games. And it's this constant arms race, so to speak, between the punishment and how much the extra mind games make it even more possible. It's all strategic, right? Because he's trying to make you more confused. He's trying to change what you think is happening so he can land more on you.
It's a mind game, baby. Well, Luke, we talked about having big-time celebrity guests here at this open workout. Let's start with these local fighters who are trying to turn into celebrities come Saturday night, make big statements, both from Glendale, Arizona. We got Adrian Rodriguez to my right.
Suavecito.
We got Danny Barrios Flores to my left. Danny, let's start with you. You will kick off those Showtime Championship Boxing prelims on the Countdown Show. 7 p.m. Eastern, I believe, Saturday night from this arena behind us. You'll be taking on Edgar Ortiz Jr. You're a local kid. Jake Paul comes to town. Now you're fighting in a featured spot. You feel any pressure this time around?
I don't feel pressure. I just, you know, to be honest, I feel motivated. You know, I feel motivated fighting here in front of my fans, in front of, especially, you know, making my debut with you guys. You know, in front of like everybody that I know. You know, especially in my hometown. You know, I feel no pressure. You know, I feel more excited than nervous.
Adrian Rodriguez, also from Glendale, you will be taking on Dominique Griffin, a Texas product, 4-2, putting your 2-0 record on the line. Is there an identity in Arizona boxing? Like, if I say, look, I'm from Glendale, do people know what I'm representing?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
How'd you get the nickname Suavecito?
It was a nickname that my dad gave me, you know. It's because I'm so smooth in the ring. And, you know, I like to look good.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Oh, my God.
Imagine us at 20, Luke. That was a
20
sad
years
sight.
old. I know. That's crazy.
What are you looking to show here, Adrian, in your bout this Saturday?
I'm looking to show everybody that I came from a small, you know, local town, Glendale, Arizona. There's not a lot of boxers that come out of here, and I'm showing everybody that you can do it. I'm trying to motivate people. I'm trying to motivate kids, you know. That, as long as you work hard for it, as long as you're mentally working and that you're good, you can do anything.
Carita, give me a breakdown of the main event. How do you see it going? What does each guy need to do?
You know, man, I think it's gonna be a good fight. You know, because I mean, they're both talented dudes. You know, Jake Paul. I mean, look what he's been doing for the past years. You know, I feel like he's really putting the grind for the sport. You know, I feel like I think it's gonna be a knockout. You know, they both want to knock each other's heads off. So I think I'm gonna go for like a 6-round knockout.
6-round knockout.
Yeah, one of them.
Do you agree?
One of them.
I'm gonna give it third round. I think Jake's gonna knock him out.
Wow.
Third round.
Wow.
Very confident.
As you can see, look, the Suavecito trucker hats are in full effect here, okay?
Yeah.
Team Rodriguez in the house. We said Glendale's tight circle. That's what Adrian said. Did you guys know each other in boxing circles?
Yeah.
On the come up?
I've been knowing Adrian for a while. You know, we just barely started sparring each other because he was in a way lower division. But now, you know, he's growing and stuff like that. So we've been sparring with each other, you know, helping each other out. We actually helped each other out for this fight.
All right, Adrian, we talk about the Jake Paul effect, bringing new fans to boxing, non-traditional ones. You're going to be fighting on the same fight card as Dr. Mike, NFL star Le'Veon Bell, Uriah Hall and Anderson Silva from the UFC. We got Nate Diaz in the ring behind us warming up his teammate Chris Avila. What is that like for you?
Honestly, it's amazing. Like, I'm astonished. I'm shocked. And I just never thought. I would never have thought to be here right now and to be fighting in the same card as them. Like, it's a great feeling, you know. Like, I'm grateful to be here.
Does doing that in your hometown, does it motivate you, or does it give you a little bit of nerves because, hey, all the eyes are going to be on you?
It motivates me. It motivates me. I have a lot of little kids that look up to me, and that brings me so much motivation. I have so many people that look up to me just because I'm coming from here, going up. It motivates everything out of me.
Same for you?
Yeah, you know, it's a... Man, I feel grateful, you know, being here. You know, I'm grinding it out. You know, putting the name, my name out there more. You know, it's gonna. I feel excited, man. I feel excited, and I just, you know, thank you for everybody. You know, I see a lot of people that I know that really came here today to come support me and watch me train. You know, it means a lot. You know, it motivates me. It motivates me, like seeing them. You know. Absolutely.
The DBF, Danny Barrios Flores. We'll see you Saturday evening in the opening bout on the Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown Preliminary Show. Luke Thomas, BC, Brian Campbell on the call, and Adrian Rodriguez will be looking out for your fight. You kind of look like a young Victor Ortiz.
Right? Little bit
right there. We wish you guys well. You're representing Glendale, hometown guys. You got big opportunities on Saturday. Go get them, all right?
Can't wait, man. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you guys for stopping by. Can't wait to see your fight, gentlemen.
Good luck to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a great day.
Yep.
Luke Thomas, the rent has been raised in terms of fan interest here.
So Nate Diaz is to our left with the Nick Diaz Army, and the fans are going absolutely berserk for him on the fence line.
Is that Nick Maximov, UFC fighter right
Yes,
there?
it is, who unfortunately just lost, but there is also Chris Avila in the ring and a bunch of other people in the Nate Diaz orbit.
Nate Diaz signing banners, autographs that the fans brought out here. He is a looming presence. This isn't his first Jake Paul fight card. He's had teammates boxing before, but the whole idea, now that he's done with his UFC contract, which we can get into later, now the intrigue really builds up. But we're going to go back into the ring. We got Ramblin' Ralph in the house.
Yeah, we do.
Let's hear from him. Let's hear this man.
All right, guys, I'm here with Chris Avila. Chris, second time on a Jake Paul card. I mean, you're a veteran of the UFC, of Bellator. Fighting in those organizations and the pageantry that surrounds all those, does it prepare you for things like this where they're really not normal boxing cards? They tend to be more show than card until the actual night of the fight?
Yeah, I mean, it comes with experience, you know. So all this is it's all combat. So at the end of the day, I'm ready to rock.
All right, now Dr. Mike got on Morning Combat and said that despite all the fights that you've had, that you are a man, he's a man, you're human, he's human, and it doesn't matter the experience, you still have to fight a mano a mano. What do you say about that?
Shit, I'm coming like I'm always coming. I'm ready to fight. He ain't got no fights like me, so he ain't saying nothing. He's scared.
All right, guys, give it up. He's opening up the Showtime pay-per-view telecast, Chris Avila.
NBA member Nick Diaz, Army in the house. Chris Avila, he's 1-1 as a professional boxer, making that transition. He went 8-9, in the MMA space. We've seen him in the UFC. We've seen him in Bellator. And now we're going to see him continue his boxing journey. He says, hey, the doctor ain't got nothing for him. Dr. Mike, we're going to find that out.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one, too. When they made that fight, I was like, that's a strange one. But that's sort of the tenor of the event.
You're getting the traditional boxing. You're getting a little wild and wacky celebrity crossover boxing, which certainly Dr. Mike will be adding to that. But Chris Avila, a battle-tested veteran, excuse me, he did fight on that last Jake Paul pay-per-view undercard. I believe it was in December. Who did he take on? Former Bellator. They had fought in Bellator. It was Anthony Taylor, was it correct?
Yes.
Anthony Taylor. They'd fought in Bellator before. They ran it back in boxing. I don't know. Where do you do the trilogy? In the streets?
Say again?
Do you do the trilogy in the streets now?
Maybe you just leave it as a rematch and just call it a day.
We'll be chatting. Look, Chris Avila is a man of few words, but I'm excited for him to share a few of those words with us right here. Hey, maybe we can get Nate Diaz. We'll see who else. You never know who's going to come up. I mean, if the problem bot comes out, Luke Thomas, we may have to interrogate him.
I'll say this. So we were in Cleveland for the first Woodley fight, and we had an open workout there, and it was certainly well attended. This one is far bigger.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Am I making that up? I don't think I'm making that up.
Well, we were also right outside of a bus station last time, so I think we got a different type of clientele that would normally be coming out
fair point, but
to
still.
a boxing open workout. But no shortage of big names here, whether we're talking media, whether we're talking about fighters, hanger-ons. Hey, there's a guy behind the camera. I don't know what he's dressed ready for, but he looks like Captain America to me. I love that.
I'm going to guess he's handled a rattlesnake or two.
I'm
I
sure.
can't quite say. But to your point, BC, the audiences and the media is weird. There's boxing media here. There's regular sports media. There's entertainment media. There's MMA media. And then you look at the fans. You see some people who are clear Anderson Silva fans, clear Nick Diaz, or Nate Diaz fans, both probably. And then you see some people with Jake Paul signs. It's a weird kind of unusual mix of audiences where usually when you go to a boxing crowd, it's very different from an MMA crowd.
And a lot of Suavecito trucker hats, like I mentioned. So if we can get added to that merch rotation, okay, I'll proudly.
There's Chris Avila doing a media scrum
Nate
on
Diaz.
the other side of the ring.
Nate Diaz representing. It's a big time. Luke, let's be honest. It's a big time in Nate Diaz's career from the standpoint of making money, potentially, but from the standpoint of making major crossover events, the same type that Jake Paul specializes in. He closed out his UFC contract. We thought he was going to take on Khamzat Chimaev in a pay-per-view main event. It turned out a late switch. It was Tony Ferguson. He got the win. What do you think he can add potentially to this celebrity boxing movement?
So I think that the Anderson Silva fight is by far Jake's most difficult and certainly biggest to date. I think the fight with Diaz is multiples of that. It's multiples of that. Nate Diaz got to author his presumed exit from the UFC on not just a win, but a submission win, so by finish, against a known legend in the game in Tony Ferguson. And now he gets to go and basically, at this stage of his career, you would agree, BC, call his own shots. And his popularity has, I mean, maybe you could say the popularity was higher after he choked out Conor McGregor, maybe. But I would say this is still pretty competitive, even with that level. He would stand to make a lot of money. I think a lot of people want to see Nate Diaz in boxing. Now, what will he'll do, we don't know. But if he decided to go that route, it would be massive.
Well, it's interesting. He competed in mixed martial arts at the highest level at both lightweight and welterweight, 155 and 170. Jake's fighting Saturday night at 187 catch weight.
Yep. And Anderson, so folks who may not know, fought at 185 and 205.
And was 3-1 at 205, including names over very big names.
Right.
Wins over very big names. But here's the key for Nate, potentially. Whatever he's going to have to give up in size, the experience as a boxer seems to have always been there. The Diaz brothers trained with high-level names from the Bay Area. They're from Stockton, California. They've gone to the Bay Area and sparred Andre Ward, the undefeated boxing legend, Hall of Famer. The idea of Nate Diaz transitioning, I don't know. I feel like he could do well in this space. The poise, the demeanor, the quick hands, the variety of the striking.
So the Diaz brothers, for folks who don't know the story, BC kind of indicated that they were training with Andre Ward years ago. I want to be very clear about this, and I want to set the record straight. When the Diaz brothers were training with Andre Ward, no one in MMA necessarily scoffed at that. It's always good to work on your boxing, but they didn't think it was the best thing to do. Like, why are you focusing so much on your boxing when you're not really competing under boxing rules? You're not wearing gloves that size. You're not competing in a ring. You're not competing in a squared
The answer is obviously for a future Jake Paul fight, potentially, right, Luke?
But the point being is it turns out that they were ahead of the game, because now that it turns out there can be, if you train it correctly, a fair amount of crossover value taking some of those boxing lessons and bringing them into MMA. Now, how ready is he for a full-on boxing fight? Again, it's part of the intrigue, but it should be clear the Diaz brothers have in many ways, in MMA certainly, been ahead of the game, and they've done that by adopting boxing.
Yeah, and there would be a lot of suitors for Nate's abilities moving forward in the bare knuckle and the traditional boxing.
How about Adrian Broner calling him out? Like, big-name boxers. Certainly Adrian's not the same as he was at the peak of his career, but still a sort of a name-value boxer. And he was calling out Nate Diaz after he won.
The thing about the crossover bubble is, love it or hate it, right? I've been entertained by it. You can get traditional boxers in there. You may need them to be fighting in matchups in which they have a size disadvantage or, to offset the advantage they have in experience. Or maybe we need to find big-name boxers toward the latter end of their career. But there's a big market to make in this crossover window when you consider how big the audiences are of the fighters from the other sports or other forms of entertainment coming in here. Nate Diaz might be, at this moment, with Conor McGregor unavailable still under a UFC contract, he might be the biggest fish you can get. I mean, Anderson Silva is pretty darn big, but in terms of the moment, in the moment people that care and matter, the Diaz army tends to cover a wider base even than a...
Well, there's no... We use the term free agent. We don't mean it in the NFL sense, which is a very technical, specific term. But if you use the term loosely, Nate Diaz is the biggest free agent in MMA history, period. That's the guy.
Wow.
Right? That's the guy. By a million miles. Frankly, that would have been true even if he had lost his last UFC bout, but he won it via stoppage against another big and celebrated name. Again, he can call his own shots. He may go back to MMA. Who's to say? We don't really know. But if he tries to go down this path, I think there's going to be a massive amount of interest no matter who he ends up facing off against.
One thing we're not potentially talking about, is there any business to be had in a potential Anderson Silva Nate Diaz boxing match or MMA match or what have you?
There's a lot of all the permutations sound weird until you start noodling them through. Again, what's a promoter's job? To put on the fights that people want to pay money to see.
Yes.
If there's interest in Silva versus Nate Diaz, believe me, someone's going to make it.
It's not that much of a departure from Anderson Silva versus older brother Nick Diaz, which was one of those fun, creative, different weight classes. Let's put them together and see what we got. We got a weird mixed bag that night, of course. But you see Dr. Mike Varshavsky in front of us, the 32-year-old physician turned boxer for now. And you may have seen his interview with Dr. Fauci that went viral, 2 million views. People love this guy for his medical and wellness advice. He may be going against his own wellness advice by entering a sport like this against a guy as decorated as Chris Avila, Luke. That may be the case. We'll find out.
Yeah, I don't really, again, this is the one that's a bit of a head scratcher for me because in all of them, I don't really quite know what to expect. In this one, I'm really just like, what is happening here?
The one thing we do know is he'll have a legitimate size advantage here. Mike's a big boy, the 6'3" southpaw that you see him here from a right-handed stance. His opponent's smaller but much more decorated and has that reputation for toughness. Who's the opponent? You know him. Chris Avila, Nick Diaz Army in the house. Chris, great to see you. You're a veteran for many years of the biggest fight promotion houses that we can find, UFC, Bellator, making some noise in boxing here. When you get the phone call, we're not going to have you fight Anthony Taylor again. It's going to be the Dr. Mike guy from YouTube. What are you thinking?
it was a little cringy in the beginning, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take what I can get. You know, it's a good opportunity to be on a good fight card, and I'm looking at him as a real opponent, as a real professional. So props to him for taking the fight with me too, and a little dorky, but it's all good.
Okay, but that dork's pretty big. This is a look. You fought at what 168 pounds in boxing your last fight?
145 my MMA career in the UFC.
Cruiserweight fight.
What's your walk around weight right now?
I'm about 175.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a cruiserweight bout. Limit 200 pounds.
185.
185. Excuse me. This is a catchweight 185.
185.
Okay, catchweight bout of 185. You're fighting a big dude there. Will that play a factor at all in this?
We'll see. You know, he's a pretty big guy, but I got the experience and the skill set, and that I believe I know I can get the job done. So it's an exciting fight, you know, for everybody to watch, and I'm down to put that on for everybody too. So
have you watched tape on him at all?
I've seen some of his stuff. Well, the one fight he does have is against another YouTuber. So yeah, I watched it, and I train with bigger people. I train with more experienced people my whole career. So there's nothing. I would take this fight, and I did take the fight in an instant. So
what's the key to fighting a bigger opponent?
Just I rely on my quickness, my experience. It is everything, all that together. I just go out there and I be on my A game and get the job done. And I believe I can put this guy away.
Now, are you a Dr. Mike fan? Do you take wellness advice from this gentleman?
Never heard of him before the fight got offered. So
you're like Nick Diaz Army. We got a different kind of wellness advice.
we are doctors.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm about to be a doctor after I beat him too.
Chris, what does it mean to represent NDA? You're taking it now to boxing, and when you show up, man, there's going to be a Diaz brother following you, the Nick Maximoff. There's a toughness element here. What does it mean for you to represent those three letters?
It means a lot. You know, I've been with this team for a long time now, and I'm from Stockton, so. You know, I got to represent, and it means a lot, you know. So, but it is what it is, it's a fight game. So, I'm giving Dr. Mike, I'm welcoming him to the fight game.
You're like, I'm giving Dr. Mike a prostate exam.
So, that's quite the welcome. But, interesting is Nate's also here, right? He's here supporting you, not just him. Looks like the whole Nick Diaz Army is here. What does it mean that they're here on Fight Week?
It's just what we do. You know, we ride together. I ride with him for his fights. I ride with Nick Maximoff. I ride with Nate. I ride for all my team, and so they do the same back. You know?
I mean, to give you an example, Nate's taking a video of us interviewing right now, all right? That's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah. My partner's right here, man.
Hey, Chris, while we got you here, what's your prediction for the main event?
I don't know. There's a young bull and an old bull, up-and-comer. Ashton Sylve, you know, he did it. He's beat a lot of good people, you know. So it would be surprising if Ashton Sylve got the job done, and then it wouldn't be surprising if Jake Paul saw him.
Yeah, we got a massive video screen billboard above us right here of Paul versus Silva. When you heard this was real, Jake was going to step up against Anderson. Did you feel like he was biting off more than he can chew at first?
Nah. I mean, I guess he's going to fight all these guys anyway, so I don't know. I mean, it's a good fight. That's a good main event right there. So I'm not predicting anything. We'll see what's up. I don't even know.
Here's my question. Both Jake and Anderson went through this. Transitioning from MMA, from other sports or other areas. For Anderson, it was MMA to boxing. You've made that same transition. What is the hardest part technically to adjust to this new
sport? I don't think there was any hard part because at the end of the day, I don't train like all these other dork MMA fighters. My team, we train real martial arts. We train real jiu-jitsu, real gi jiu-jitsu.
So no touch button in the park? None of that?
Zippy.
All our guys are real professional boxers. I come from a professional. I come from a boxing background. I started off with a real boxing coach. I've always had a boxing coach, and I've had amateur boxing fights. I've taken my boxing career serious. I went pro back in 2014 in professional boxing before I went professional in MMA. And then I took my MMA career serious. I wasn't going to go back and forth with it. That was, 8-9 years ago. And
Now it's all boxing?
I'm not locked in a contract with no Bellator or UFC, and so I'm happy to go in and box and stick with boxing for right now and see where I can take it. You know, I'm looking to fight the highest competition, but I'm taking it one fight at a time.
Fair enough. Do you feel any pressure given all the eyeballs on you, given how big this is, and representing Nick Diaz Army? Do you feel like that? Obviously, it motivates you, but also it comes with some responsibility as well, does it not?
Yeah, it's good. I'm with it. I'm ready. I'm bringing it all. Bring it all for me. You know, I'm ready. So I'm ready to.
You know what that responsibility is? Don't be a bitch.
Don't be a bitch.
Yeah.
Zippy bitch.
That's what it is right there. Chris, am I always saying right, Chris? Avila? What is the proper?
Honestly, I think it's just Avila.
Yeah.
Avila.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, Chris
good.
Avila in the house, NDA represented. You've been taking on Dr. Mike.
Dr. Chris
Thank you so
Avila
much.
After Saturday.
Dr. Chris
Avila.
is in now. It's Chris Avila. Thank you so much for your time.
I'll show you how to.
We're going to throw it to the ring and Ramblin' Ralph.
I'm going to be honest with you. When I got the assignment to open workout, I went to your YouTube page and I just was kind of circling around, bro. It's like getting lost on Netflix, bro. I just was like, there's so many videos, man, and you really do a big service to a lot of people in the country and all over the world. 23 million followers there. Sexiest doctor alive. You got so much going for you. So why in the hell are we getting in the ring, Dr. Mike, with a veteran of 19 combat sports fights? Tell me about it, brother. And I know you already said your platforms, but for these people here that may not know your story, let them know what's going on.
About 10 years ago, I had a really rough go where me and my father lost both of my grandparents and my mom in the same year. It was a dark time, mental health, physical health-wise, and boxing helped sort of find my happiness again, my physical health, my mental health. And over those last 10 years, I've been training boxing for fitness. But now, as the advice that I give on the YouTube channel about living to the top of your potential, I feel like I have to lead by example and live to the top of my potential and get the W on October 29th. You know what I'm saying?
Now, your purse, you could do anything you want with it. You can keep it, you can go blow it, you can buy another car, whatever you want to do. But you're doing something really special with your purse. Tell us.
Just like my previous fight, I'm giving it away. Harlem Boys and Girls Club in New York City, supporting the kids, supporting the social programs. All the YouTubers out there trying to get their bag, I respect them. But I've been blessed. I find myself in a privileged position with one exhibition fight to be able to fight on Showtime pay-per-view, so it's my job to give back.
Guys, all you have to do on YouTube is go to the little magnifying glass, type in Dr. Mike. You're going to find him. Go follow him. And when this is all done, man, win, lose, or draw, I'm coming to see you because I need to look like that, bro. You got to get me going. Guys, give it up for Dr. Mike taking on Chris Avila in our opening attraction on Saturday, Showtime pay-per-view.
Dr. Mike Warshawski, 32 years old. He's a big boy, 6'3". We'll get a chance to chat with him in a few moments. You saw his in-ring workout. You heard Chris Avila break it down. That's a weird and interesting fight. Let's be upfront about it. It's
I gotta say, Chris Avila looks like he's waiting for the bus. I mean, not even intimidated a little bit, but he's been around. He's much smaller, but he's got way more experience in the training room and under the bright lights. We'll see what happens.
Well,
I
look,
have no idea.
I'm an anti-fraternity guy, unlike you.
Yes, you're
you
a
and
hater.
your boys had to play quarters to feel good about themselves.
Sigma Pi, Alpha Eta chapter.
But there is an initiation. You know, some would call it bullying and abuse in most fraternities.
It is, yes.
What's the NDA initiation like?
I don't want to know. We're not tough enough for it. I know that.
Do you think Dr. Mike has experience with NDAs?
Non-disclosure agreements?
No, Nick Diaz Army members, all right? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about right there. All right. We are just steps outside of the Desert Diamond Arena. That is behind us. It's, of course, where the Jake Paul Anderson Silva pay-per-view card goes down this Saturday. You can purchase that right now, by the way. Showtime.com/PPV. Hey, get the order in now. You're not just getting the must-see Jake Paul Anderson Silva matchup. How about Le'Veon Bell, who'll be out here in a little bit? Dr. Mike, Nate Diaz, Chris Avila will be here. We can't wait. So much, and then all that and then some. Tall, pale, and handsome. It is your boy BC here alongside Luke Thomas. And Luke, we've been here a few times on this Jake Paul journey. And
we have.
How would you describe exactly what type of crowd Jake Paul does bring into the building for boxing.
It's an interesting one. Again, it's not a traditional MMA fan. I mean, but there are some MMA fans. It's not MMA fans. They skew young. They definitely skew young.
Which is not a bad thing in boxing, by the way. Not a bad thing.
Definitely some people who bought NFTs. I think that's fair as well.
That's true.
A little bit of crypto involved in the crowd. But it just seems like, I don't know, like a... Listen, I'm 43 years old. I'm not exactly clued in.
I barely Venmo.
Right. It seems like just a very young generation where MMA fans tend to be a little like 25 to 34, 25 to 44 in that age range. And, of course, you get some younger, you get some older. But it's a little bit more in that pocket. Jake Young shifts that pocket.
Jake Young.
What did I say? Jake Paul, pardon. Jake Paul shifts that pocket towards a much younger side of that kind of thing. And, again, pulls people who I don't know if they watch fights if not for Jake Paul. So it's not even necessarily a full-on fight crowd either. And I think that's the appeal for Jake Paul. That's the appeal for the promoters. They're bringing people to boxing that I don't think ordinarily would have been here.
I can't believe we're this far into it. This is where you got to give Jake Paul credit because it was like an experiment. And it could have gone wrong for him. He could have gone in there and tasted big-time defeat and never kept going. But he clearly caught the addiction of the bug, of training, of taking this seriously, of going after it. It's allowed him to make the type of moves through 5 fights that you just don't see. But boy, has he kind of lived up to it and showing up for the moments. Look, the fights have to be fun, though. And in that second fight against Tyron Woodley, not the intended opponent, fell through Tommy Fury. They had to bring in Woodley again. At least we got the boom in the end. But that was a fight that was very technical, very tactical. It was very fireworks of the first meeting.
It was very defensive. Again, I'll go back to the tape study. If you've not seen it, go to youtube.com/Morning Combat. We do a Showtime podcast. I did a tape study on the first and second Woodley fights. The big difference, most of them, are that his footwork got cleaned up and his defensive responsibilities got cleaned up. What do I mean by that, BC? For example, there'd be times before where a big punch would come and he would circle way outside, giving up center position in the ring, and then also just sort of orbiting on the outside. If you look at the first fight, Jake Paul is the one orbiting on the outside. You look at the second fight, it's Tyron Woodley orbiting on the outside. He was also doing a lot of defensive clinching rather than just trying to sling in the pocket wild shots. So it made for a bit of a, let's say, stilted offense between the two of them until he dropped the bomb later, which shows you what he's capable of, but also that there are some growing pains when you're this new to boxing and you've got these kinds of assignments that he has signed up for.
Well, let's give him credit for that poise that we mentioned. That fight was different. We're not really sure who was leading. It was close on the scorecards, and then you get Jake Paul, who set up that knockout punch with the right hand sort of earlier and on the way and on the go throughout that fight. When the opening was there, he delivered. And there you had a viral moment. I mean, that was legitimately in discussion for knockout of the year in boxing. I mean,
yeah, the fight up until then was not super fun. It was not super offensive. But then that itself the clip went viral. Yes. And by the way, I've seen Tyron Woodley knocked out before. Nate Marquardt at Strikeforce had done it along the fence line, but he did it with elbows. I'd never seen Tyron Woodley one-shot KO'd like that from a punch ever in his history. You know why? Because it hadn't happened up until that night.
Yeah, and a lot of the talk leading into this Jake Paul Anderson Silva fight is, of course, what will happen to Jake when he does taste that power. If you want to watch the tape, it's out there, of Anderson upsetting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., I think he disciplined him. He hit him with punches Chavez wasn't expecting to take. That changed the tenor of the fight. But we're talking about celebrity intrigue here. How about NFL star, one of the top running backs in his time in the game, Le'Veon Bell, who, if you didn't see the highlight, Google it. Adrian Peterson versus Le'Veon Bell. Luke, that ended with fireworks.
Yeah, you know what's amazing? He didn't let himself go, did he? Good Lord.
Still in great shape.
Still in phenomenal shape.
How much do you... Let's be honest about this. The threat of danger in a boxing ring physically is high. It's always been high. It's what it is, okay? This is boxing. But the threat in the meme era of being on a Jake Paul card or being on a celebrity crossover card and getting sent to hell, as they say, Luke, people don't forget those highlights. They tend to linger. The guts on Le'Veon Bell to knock out Adrian Peterson in a tough enough matchup as it was, and now being like, yeah, let me take on that guy that just retired from the UFC who knows how to use his hands.
Yo, balls of steel. Certainly he's got him. Unbelievable that he is stepping up like this quickly. And again, it's not like he's taking on a guy from MMA who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu who just trained his hands while he was there to professionally compete, but he's not really a striker. No, he's fighting a striker. He's fighting a guy. Now, granted, it was off of a kick, who had maybe the greatest knockout in the history of the Ultimate Fighter reality television series. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has put people's lights out for years, and that's his second bout in the ring.
So
that is
let me ask you
wild.
this, and I want to ask him this later, and I will. Is he crazy? Is he crazy like a fox? Do things just not scare him? Is that what it takes to be the type of pro athlete he was on the NFL level? One of the most unforgiving positions of running back,
right,
where you are a hammer until you hammer no more. Maybe it's just, it ain't no thing. Maybe that's what it is.
I'll say this, man. If you are a running back in the National Football League and you were as good as him, were you at the all-pro level, right? You're not afraid of contact, right? I mean, that job, the requirement is it is once more into the breach, dear friends, every time they hand you the rock. And he did it during his time from 2013 on as some of the best who ever have. He's a phenomenal, phenomenal athlete. But again, BC, you know this as well. Athleticism obviously is a huge part of combat sports. But the reality is it's a highly technical sport as well. And if you're new to it, you're just going to leave openings you don't know are there. Uriah Hall is probably, I'm going to guess, going to set traps for him he's just never seen before. I mean, imagine if we were saying, hey, Uriah, pick up the football, get a set of pads on, and go run between the A-gap. No, this is not going to happen.
Well, he is a world-class athlete himself, Uriah Hall, but the NFL athletes
you understand
seem to
the
have,
skill differential there.
Yes, and the explosiveness here, what that Le'Veon Bell brings is going to have to be the thing that gives him his biggest chance to win this. That ability to do exactly what he did to Adrian Peterson, which was explode out of nowhere with one counter shot that can end the fight. I respect him for coming here. We've seen on this circuit a little bit of crossover. Of course, the Nate Robinson crossover went the wrong way when Jake Paul finished him with one punch. But we saw Darren Williams, ex-NBA point guard, on the last Jake Paul undercard, take on Frank Gore, another NFL running back. We've mentioned the aforementioned Bell-Adrian Peterson fight. Is it that there's money to be made? I mean, look, NFL players are paid pretty darn well, so I'm not going to guess it's money to be made. There's got to be a hunger for that challenge, for that unknown, for that thing that scares you. This level of athlete lives for that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. We talked about this earlier with Jake Paul. You can like or not like, you can respect or not respect, but you can't say he's phoning it in. And if you do, you're going to get found out. Now, it looks to me like Le'Veon Bell is in no way phoning it in. But what I bring this up to say is, BC, that he just looks like he's not done athletically competing.
Yes.
Now, maybe things in the NFL came to a close. They do for every single athlete who enters that organization, but that doesn't mean... Except for Tom Brady, who has certainly been doing this since I was in college. But you get my point. He's just not done doing the things he wants to do as an athlete, and so here he is testing himself. Yeah, the paycheck probably helps, and I'm sure it's financially motivating, quite literally. But the other component is, man, he wants to do stuff. He wants to be a pro athlete. He wants to get up there and test himself, and maybe he can't do that in the NFL right now, but he can certainly do that here in the squared circle.
Yes, and if it goes badly, you can go beyond. You can testify. That's what you level you can get to if you get laid out.
Poorly.
The dangers are very real in the boxing space, as a few who have tried it out from that celebrity crossover have found out. Let's see if Le'Veon Bell can continue and deliver. We know he's super tough. We know he's super explosive. Will that fundamental gap against him and Uriah Hall be too much? I mean, that's what we're tuning in for at the end of the day. It's the unknown.
And also, we should say this too, man. If you're out here doing this, yes, of course, the paycheck is real. Yes, of course, you want to test yourself as an athlete, but you could test yourself as an athlete in a lot of ways, right? You could go swimming. You could go rock climbing. You could do pickleball. You could do whatever you want. He must love boxing. He must actually have an adoration for the sport to pick it in this way. Somewhat commendable, actually highly commendable.
It's in your blood. Look at Dr. Mike right now. Do you think he's doing this for the money? No, he's donating his purse to the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem, New York. I think we all have that scratch. We all have that itch. Not all of us can scratch it, though, Luke. That's what I'm trying to say, really. I mean, not all of us are physically capable enough, mentally tough enough.
You're right. I also love boxing, but it's better for me to sit on this side of the equation,
Yeah, it is
right?
better. It's better. It's financially better as well than to end up a meme. But that's the chance that real fighters take. And, like you said, criticize the attempts at these guys jumping into a new sport all you want. You don't come into boxing softly. You don't tiptoe into the ring. When you're in the deep water, and that's where you get found out. Which is why it's a different pivot, it's a different lane with the celebrity bubble, but the stakes are still the same. The danger is still there. We will end up seeing if Le'Veon Bell can continue his journey. I don't know. There's no pound-for-pound rankings right now in the celebrity boxing crossover world, but
nor should there be.
Yeah, really. But you know, Jake and Anderson certainly up high, which is a big pull in that matchup.
I'll say this, man. I would be very surprised if Hall lost. Now, combat sports is crazy, so anything is possible. He is taking it seriously. We're talking about, like, what does Jake get if he beats Anderson? An enormous amount of credibility, sure. Dude, what does Le'Veon Bell get if he beats Uriah Hall? That would be a tremendous accomplishment.
Because now that's not just, hey, let's match you up with Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, another guy who's made the transition. He fought on the Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather undercard and beat a guy who had boxing and
he had BKFC
experience and Brian Maxwell. But, yeah, I mean, I wonder for Le'Veon Bell, does this – I mean, could you make a fight with him and 6'7" Darren Williams? Well, sure. But is there more? Is there more? Frank Gore's still boxing, by the way.
Yeah.
Still out there.
Yeah.
These guys get the itch. They've got that ability. They've got that mindset. Give them a lot of credit. Give them a lot of credit. Give them a lot of respect. And as you're seeing, Le'Veon Bell work the mitts, get loose in front of the crowd. You know, I mean, you're not showing your A game here, though.
You're
taking pictures more.
That's right. You're getting some pictures, hanging out for the fans, breaking a sweat, burning some calories in case you are not close to weight or whatever it might be. You know, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be light.
Yes.
Listen, if you're training for a fight, the work is already done. You're not here to work on your craft on fight week.
The hay is already in the barn, like John Anik would say.
So this is just about staying loose, staying fresh, doing what you have to do to make sure you can peak from now, anyway, in about 72 hours. That's really what this is all about. So,
how about the weather here in Glendale, Arizona, as the Valley of the Sun begins to go down here and nightfall becomes, I don't know. Now I know why people retire here, right? That cool breeze in the evening, that warming sun during the day. Can I get Luke Thomas to leave D.C. more often to come out these parts?
Well, you can certainly get me to visit on this time of the year, although I probably have a question about what it's like. I'm going to say mid-August.
I mean, would you call a D.C. winter mild or difficult?
Not as bad as your Connecticut winters. Not as bad, but still pretty noteworthy.
You know, you and I have been covering major combat sports events in Las Vegas, not too far from here in the dead of summer, where it's 103 degrees at midnight. You know, we felt a little of that pain. I don't know if I can do that.
No, I remember one time you and I left a Conor McGregor fight, and it was midnight, and in Las Vegas, and it was still 111 degrees outside. Yeah, I'm not super sized for that.
No. Thank you, Jake, for putting this event on closer to the winter, just the same. Jake Paul, Ashton Sylve, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. A reminder: the start of the pay-per-view card only on Showtime pay-per-view. But I cannot promote enough the appetizer of the evening, which goes down 7 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube, the Showtime Sports YouTube channel. For free at Showtime Championship Boxing's countdown, featured preliminary action. It's going to be BC, Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas of Morning Combat on the call. A lot of special guests coming in and out throughout our broadcast. But we got a couple must-see fights, young, hungry fighters looking to take that next step. It should be a fun show, and it should set the stage for what goes on and takes place at 9 p.m. Eastern come Saturday night. Luke, getting back to Ashton Sylve and Jake Paul, mindset-wise, boy, has Ashton Sylve been chill. The obvious answer to that statement is he's done this before. He's been on this stage before, more or less. Well, you know, he went to Mexico and beat Chavez Jr. in boxing. He's won the most outrageous, highest-level MMA fights with the kind of spectacular knockouts that makes you a damn hero. Does he have any nerves here against Jake, or is it literally like, this is what I do?
I tend to think it might be the opposite, right? Where if Silva could get himself into trouble, would it be from being overly nervous? That seems unlikely, right? We're talking about a guy who's fought in the biggest stages in Japan, the biggest stages in Brazil, the biggest stages in Europe, the biggest stages in the United States. I just don't buy that he would be that nervous. But CBC, that might be the problem. Because if you're like, oh, I've been there, I've done that, I've seen all this, what could this guy Jake possibly have for me? Are you going to do a little bit too much dancing? Are you going to do a little bit too much showboating? Are you going to do a little bit too much having fun? I do think that Silva is always going to have his fun no matter what. You can't take that from him. But there is a quotient where it begins to get a problem. Ask Chris Weidman.
You're right.
You do a little too much of that in front of him, and he'll put his lights out. That's exactly what happened.
How did Ashton Sylve's record-breaking unbeaten run of 16 consecutive fights at the very top level of the UFC come to an end. The first meeting with Chris Weidman, dancing with his hands down, trying to get in his opponent's head a little bit too much, and he just had the wrong opponent at the wrong time for that strategy. Weidman stayed the course, landed the key shots, as Silva stayed in the line of fire too long, leaned backwards. Will he do that against Jake? It may depend upon the type of success Anderson finds early. Because when he gets into that mode, that sort of flowing freestyle mode, those antics, they get in the mind of the opponent, they set traps for the opponent. But I purposely feel that's how Anderson gets to that zone that you can't, you know what I mean? That you can't get there any other way. That feeling where anything can happen. He can uncork any type of strike. Now in boxing, we're taking away some of his weapons for sure. You won't see the front kick. You won't see the flying knee that he nearly knocked Michael Bisping out with. But what Anderson Silva does do in a boxing ring is hit you with the type of punches through feints, through angles, level changes that you just don't see coming.
Also,
and you just don't.
Right. And Anderson Silva, by the way, we should note this as well. He can stance switch. He can absolutely stance switch. He caught Forrest Griffin, former UFC light heavyweight champion, walking into a punch by switching stances so that he moved into it. We're talking about a very, very crafty guy. A pure boxer in every sense of the word? No. But a very crafty martial artist. No doubt about it.
Speaking of crafty men with skills in other areas who are putting it all on the line, Dr. Mike Varshavsky is with us. 22 million.
You could have put a shirt on.
I could have.
And you're sitting here embarrassing us.
Here. I mean, we got Le'Veon Bell in there looking even better shirt.
Yeah, he does look tremendous. I agree.
Now, Mike, I'm not going to bore you with questions about my liver. We already did that in Morning Combat in the build-up to the fight. But you got to see your opponent. You get the fanfare of the crowds. You may be comfortable in the operating room. You may be comfortable in front of the camera making viral videos on YouTube. How are the nerves catching up with you? Actually, let's pause that. Let's pause that. We're going to hear from Le'Veon Bell in the ring. We'll be right back with more Dr. Mike.
All right, I'm here with Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon, a former teammate of yours, Roosevelt Nix, trains with me at the gym right here down the street in Phoenix, right? Yeah, I know he's your guy, and he actually spoke really highly of you. He says you are the hardest working and most prepared guy he's ever played with. Taking all of that into consideration, how harder is being in this squared circle compared to an NFL, or is it not? You tell us which one is definitely harder.
Hands down, being in this ring is tougher. It's a lot more weight on your shoulders. In your team, or in football, you have a team behind you. You got guys you can lean on, just in case if I'm not fully prepared. Or if they're not fully prepared, you can add with them. But in the ring, it's all about you. It's about how prepared you are. Once you get in that ring, nobody can help you. You know, all your preparation is already done, and it's all about you. So that's the biggest difference. And boxing is definitely the toughest sport.
Now, with that being said, most fighters that go into the professional realm, counting their fights, don't really jump into the ring with someone like Uriah Hall, was a UFC title contender. Why this guy? Why right now in your first fight?
Honestly, he was the name who was brought to me. I thought it would be a great challenge for me, just because of the fact that, I did just fight another football player, and I know exactly where I want to go with this boxing thing, so I felt like Uriah Hall was a great opponent for me because he's been a guy who's been fighting at such a high level for such a long time in the UFC and this UFC field, you know what I'm saying? So stepping in this ring and boxing with him, it's going to be a great honor for me. I got to showcase my skill and show everybody why I'm doing this.
Well, everything you learned on the football field and everything he learned in the octagon is thrown out the window. I'm very intrigued by this, as well as everybody else out here. Thank you very much. Guys, give it up. Le'Veon Bell, he's going to be on the Showtime pay-per-view telecast. Don't miss it, man. It's going to be intriguing.
Back ringside here, Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, and Dr. Mike. Mike, what I was setting up is you'd be taking on Chris Avila. You got to see him work out. You hold your nerves and hands together well in surgery, comfortable in front of a camera. How have the nerves caught up with you? Because you got to be, you're human underneath those muscles, Mike. So have the nerves hit home yet?
Absolutely. If the nerves don't hit home, you're doing something wrong. But I got to speak medically and psychologically about this. If you make stress your friend, you will perform better. You do not get the negative effects of stress. So right now, the nerves that I'm feeling, that's just setting me up for success.
I got to tell you, Dr. Mike, seems like you're kicking the Hippocratic Oath out the window here. Doing plenty of harm, my friend.
Well, I'm allowed to suspend it when I step onto that canvas and prescribe these fists and the KOs and all that good stuff.
Now, tell me real quickly, what kind of medicine do you practice? practice?
I'm a family medicine physician, so, you know, I'm very familiar with delivering flu jabs, but inside that ring, I'm going to be delivering stiff jabs.
Now,
I got puns. I got doctor puns.
What do the other doctors in your office or your practice or other ones that you know, what are they saying to you about you doing this?
They're having a watch party. They're fully supportive. They think I'm crazy, and I've lost it a little bit, that I'm willing to put myself under that risk. But, you know, it's a calculated risk. It's a risk that I've understood what I'm facing stepping inside that ring, and I have the full support of my trainer, Thomas Baldwin. He thinks I'm ready to go, so I know I'm ready to go.
What do you know about Chris Avila?
I know that he's a 20-plus fight combat veteran, never been knocked down, fights out of the NDA crew. They're a tough organization. I know he trains well, does triathlons. So I know he's going to be ready. He's not taking this lightly. He said it before in interviews, and neither am I. I've given this my all. I'm fully prepared, ready to go. Sparred very serious guys inside that ring who didn't want to let me off the hook because I'm a doctor or a YouTuber, and I respect them for that.
What scares you more as a doctor? The NDA that comes with lawyers, or the one that includes Nate Diaz walking around here, okay?
Honestly, both of them are equally scary for different reasons, though, as you can imagine.
Okay. Mike, we got to give you a lot of credit. So you had essentially a charity boxing match in May.
Yep.
You fought 5 rounds. You won. What type of opponent were you facing in that one?
I was fighting iDubbbz, who's a famous YouTuber, actually put the entire Creator Clash together, which was a charity event that raised $1.3 million for charity. I donated my fighter pay, which is around $50,000, to the crisis in Ukraine from that fight.
Amazing. You grew up born in Russia,
I was born in Russia, but my family was from Ukraine, and what is going on there is obviously senseless and horrible and tragic for all those reasons. So I continue to support that battle as well. But from that event, being in a 10,000 fully sold out arena, 100,000 people watching at home on pay-per-view, I felt the nerves. I felt the time change inside that ring. It was supposed to be 3-minute rounds, 4 rounds. Instead, they made it 2-minute rounds, 5 rounds. They changed that unbeknownst to me in the middle of the fight, unbeknownst to even my opponent. And it was a unique experience, but I think I took a lot away from that single experience.
All right, so you get the win there, more or less, or you show out and you prove to yourself that you can do this. Now you're doing this on a much higher level, and to give you credit, you're donating your entire purse to the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem, New York. How do you know you're ready, though, for Chris Avila? He's a little bit smaller than you, but that combat experience is real.
Absolutely. I know I'm ready because my trainer, Thomas Baldwin, who's a former professional fighter, says I'm ready. I entrust my life to him because he entrusts his family members' lives to me because I'm their doctor. I actually was talking to Amanda Serrano and her family about this. They called me nuts because they said, Mike, you have everything going for you. You're a doctor. You're handsome. You have money. Why are you doing this? I said, well, who would you be more scared of? Someone who's doing this because they have to, or because they absolutely don't have to but still love to?
Has there ever been a point in training where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do this? But obviously you overcame it, but has there been like a tough day?
I mean, it wouldn't be real if there were no tough days. Every day is a tough day. I'm boxing in the morning, going to the hospital later that day, and then doing sprints at night. Every day is a tough day, and pushing through each one of those tough days is what gives you the motivation to keep going. In fact, that's what I want the audience to take away from this. You don't get motivated for a fight like this. You train for a fight like this, and then the motivation comes.
So the charity that you picked, tell us again what it is and why you picked it.
Yeah, it's the Harlem Boys and Girls Club of New York. You know, me coming to the United States at a young age, we lived off of welfare. We lived in welfare housing. I couldn't afford the cereal in the supermarkets. We had to walk to get the sugary cereal. Programs like the Harlem Boys and Girls Club keep that social support for kids, keep them active, keep them moving, keep them educated, and I support anyone that gets involved in a venture like that.
Well, Mike, we support you, Dr. Mike, for having the guts to step up on this challenge.
Sure.
Chris Avila is nobody's easy handle, and you're going to see that come Saturday night. You have a great message, but to close here, in terms of the future, is it, hey, we'll take one at this level, see what happens? Or are you looking to put the medicine aside if this becomes a thing? What's going on?
Medicine's always going to be a priority to me, but I'm absolutely dedicated to this sport, and if this continues to go well, I think we have a bright future for us.
Dr. Mike Varshavsky, if we can ever get Showtime to allow us to perform medical, procedures on the air, like in a documentary, I want him to do your diverticulitis surgery. Right?
Yeah, I just got over a diverticulitis.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Antibiotics, the whole thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I had to have a colonoscopy. It was a thing, but I'm good to go. I got a clean bill of health. I'm good to
As
go.
long as we can get that workaround for the prostate exam. I mean, it's 2022, okay? Okay, it's been a long time. Dr. Mike, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much,
to see you.
gentlemen.
Best of
Appreciate
luck.
Can't wait to see your fight. Thank you so much.
Come Saturday night. You saw inside the ring, there's the former UFC contender, longtime middleweight. As dangerous as they come, it is Uriah Hall. He'll be taking on Le'Veon Bell, who we just saw inside the ring. Uriah looks muscular.
He looks
a
big.
little bit bigger than his 185 fighting days.
Yeah, he looks
sure.
way bigger.
Does that play a factor at all?
It could. I don't. It's not. This is the thing. I want to ask Bell about this because he's going from obviously football to now he's been in boxing for a little while, obviously. But for Uriah, he was not too recently in the UFC, and now going to boxing, which is a different kind of cardiovascular output. It's a different strain on what your body can do in different ways. It's different round times. It's just a really different kind of scenario. And I'm sure what he's done is going to set him up pretty well, but it's not by itself the best one. The best one would be to view it from boxing, obviously.
I believe this is a heavyweight bout, right?
Right.
So, you know, he fought at 185 in his recent heyday. I mean, you can argue that Uriah Hall, despite being in his late 30s here, did some of his best work later in his career in the UFC.
And dude, he has wins over great names like Gegard Mousasi, obviously another legend in the sport, one of the best middleweights to ever do it. Uriah Hall knocked him out. Let's be very clear about that. So he has done some great things. Now, he didn't win a UFC title. He never fought for a UFC title. But he was always sort of this perennial top 10-ish kind of guy who would give good fights to the people who, actually, well, if you weren't good enough to get into the top fight space, you'd find out against Uriah Hall. And he has some incredible fights on his highlight reel. This is one I was very surprised by, BC. I thought when he retired, or at least I was done with UFC, I thought maybe he might do, I don't know, another MMA organization, or I don't know, but fighting Le'Veon Bell just wasn't in the crystal ball. I didn't see it coming.
I didn't either. And if you're wondering, how did Anderson Silva's UFC career end? At the hands of one Uriah Hall, which featured some of the greatest sportsmanship we've seen after that fight. The two of them bending over, crying, embracing. The end of an era in one sport for Anderson Silva. He'll continue what he's doing in boxing, and Uriah Hall will start his boxing career. Luke, who's facing a bigger uphill battle here? The unknowns Dr. Mike is facing and crossing over against a decorated veteran in Chris Avila, or Le'Veon Bell, who can punch and is an athlete, trying to go in there against somebody like Uriah Hall?
Got to be Bell, right? Because Dr. Mike he seems like a very bright guy, right, obviously, and, you know, is making calculated decisions, also has a size advantage. Chris Avila also is not a high output guy, and never really has been. So between the lack of high output and the size advantage, there's some safety there, I think you could argue. For Bell against Hall, you know, again, it's not like Uriah Hall is going to come out berserker mode. He's just never done that before. That wouldn't exactly be the right thing. But, dude, he's ruthless. He's ruthless.
He's also tough as nails.
Super
Uriah
tough.
Hall.
Has had very, very, very durable inside of MMA. So, yeah, I got to say Bell's got a much tougher challenge, I would argue.
It will be interesting to see, as with anyone who enters this sphere. How about that word? Sphere. It's hard to say, though, right?
No, not really.
Sphere, in the crossover boxing space. I wonder if Uriah Hall comes out here and gets a win and looks spectacular in doing so. I wonder if there's potential fights for him down this road. He's that right size you would need in a potential. I'll use Jake Paul as an example. These are the type of fighters that he's sort of looking to match up with. And also, you know, he's got the decorated experience. So it's something to watch for.
But see, here's the thing, right? So, again, we don't know what the hell's going to happen. And you want to buy the pay-per-view, you can do it at showtime.com/PPV pay-per-view.
Buy right now.
But here's the thing, BC. Like, there's a couple of situations. Like, for example, what if Hall goes in there and just blows the doors off of Le'Veon Bell? And Jake Paul gets a win, but it's a split decision, and he had to eke it out, and he got set down on the canvas. Are you going to run into the arms of the guy who retired the guy you just beat? I just don't know if that's likely. On the other hand, if Jake Paul looks really good, and I'm sure Uriah Hall's going to look good one way or the other, I fully expect him to win, to be quite clear. That might make a little bit more sense. It's all going to be contextual based upon how he looks, how Anderson looks, and how Jake looks, and of course, how Le'Veon Bell performs. By the way, we're kind of sleeping on Le'Veon Bell in this. He's a dynamic athlete who does not believe he's going to lose. We'll have to see how he performs on Saturday.
I mean, you know, when we're talking about making a transition, I will put the bet on, if anyone can make it quicker, the transition, it's an NFL player. It's somebody who is explosive.
Over an MMA fighter?
And is a sick athlete. Okay, there's different MMA fighters, right? An MMA fighter with more experience in the hands.
Right.
Like an Anderson Silva.
A striking-based
who's literally
MMA fighter,
one of the greatest in combat sports history. But when you're talking about people coming over from different areas, you know, more NFL, NBA. I mean, look, you can take the NFL guys are tough as nails. They are explosive. They are the freak athletes of the freak athletes, as people like to say. say, Luke. They are something
Well, there's always the
special.
eternal debate. Who's the best athlete, the NBA or the NFL guys? There's certainly something to be said for
There's more
that.
contact in the NFL, okay?
There's especially these days.
Yes.
Bill Laimbeer is no longer in the league.
No, those Knicks-Bulls matchups from the early 90s, those had some contact. Not anymore.
But, you know, I mean, listen, who's had the kind of contact in MMA? You know, I mean, Bell just can't even approximate the kinds of things that Uriah Hall has been through, win or lose, by the way. He's had up and down moments, to be quite clear. But we're just talking about a wealth of experience, much more directly applicable to this kind of thing, even if I grant, to your point, Bell is a sensational athlete whose entire job in football, this was not the kicker, right? This was not the kicker. This was the running back.
The battering ram, yeah.
He was damn good at it, too.
Yeah, damn good. Looking at Uriah Hall with essentially a heavyweight body now, that's not a bad assignment for him, I'm going to guess. You know, you make 185, which is probably not an easy cut for somebody the size of Hall, into your late 30s. And now you get to keep on a little bit of that meat here and come out, and I wonder if that'll end up giving him
now, here's a story.
A little bit more gas in the tank.
It might. I've told you this on the air on our podcast, Morning Combat. I'm going to tell the audience here. The day after Uriah Hall lost his last MMA bout against Andre Muniz, I was walking to the airport in Las Vegas, and I was crossing from where they drop you off until the part where you can go and check your bags. And up pulls Uriah Hall, and he rolled down his window, and he yelled at me. He goes, hey, you're that MMA guy, right? And I was like, I guess, yes. Certainly that's one way to think about it. Do you think he remembers me when he sits down?
Well, I would say no normally, but I had him on ahead of his last MMA fight on Morning Combat, and I don't know if you remember, but he started off that interview going, oh, I know you guys. I know you.
Now, did he say it in a good way or a bad way?
Not in a loving way, in many ways, all right? But we got to pause now and throw it back to the ring. Here's Uriah Hall with Ramblin' Ralph.
All right, guys, we're here with Uriah Primetime Hall. Uriah, we're facing that camera right there, brother. So most fighters, when they say they're going to take a break, they get called back, sometimes because it's just in their nature, right? You stated that you were on vacation when you actually got the call for this fight. Now, did you agree to that fight because the fighter in you just, you had to do it because that's what fighters do? Or did you see this as a challenge, it's something different, and you wanted to try it out?
First of all, what up, Phoenix? Come on, man, listen. I know there's a lot of fans in here for different people, but these guys are going out here putting their brain cells on the line, so they deserve some support. And we coming out here to entertain you guys. So what's up, Phoenix? I'll take that. So to answer your question, I'm always going to be a professional athlete at the end of the day. It's in my mind. It's embedded. I love to compete at the end of the day. I'm the type of guy to play video games, and you'll beat me 100 times. I just need one. So I'm competitive at heart. When this call happened, you know, I was kind of iffy about it, but I just love to compete. You know, I don't know too much about Le'Veon Bell. I got nothing bad to say about him. He's an athlete. You know, he's great in his field. I'm great in my field, and this is my debut boxing, and it's just coming out here, you know, to impose each other's will and see what happens. I'm here to have fun. You know, I get to do this. I consider myself the 1% of this population of the planet that can step completely outside my comfort zone. That's why people are watching, and I get to do what I do. So I encourage you guys to go after whatever you want. If it sounds silly as fuck, just go after it. That's your dream.
Now, speaking of that, just segue, last question here. Most elite MMA fighters have a well-rounded skill set. You don't really focus on striking 100%. Well-rounded. For this sport, though, you do, right? So did you do anything different in your training to prepare for this fight?
Honestly, you know, as a mixed martial artist, all I'm doing is taking away 4 of my element, you know. When I train for mixed martial arts fights, I got to train my boxing, my kickboxing, my judo, my wrestling, my grappling. So it's just putting the rest of those guys aside and just focus on one attribute. I'm good with my hands. A lot of people don't see me throw hands, but, you know, I get to throw them today. I can't kick. I can't do no takedown. I can't submit. So let's throw some bangers.
Don't have no flashbacks in there, bro. Take it easy.
If I kick by accident, I'm sorry.
Guys, give it up. Uriah Primetime Hall. Both of these fighters making their professional debut, taking something away from their skill set. I can't wait for this one, guys.
A relatively jovial Uriah Hall. Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Excited for the opportunity. Hey, who reps Arizona harder than Ramblin' Ralph, right?
No, well, I'll tell you this much.
All right.
No, fair point about Ramblin' Ralph. He's amazing. But in fairness to Uriah Hall, you know what? He's not cutting weight. And
Yes.
it's often funny when you show up on fight week as a media guy, you stick a microphone in a boxer or a fighter, in an MMA fighter's face. A lot of times they're real hungry and they're short on, their patience.
They don't want to suffer fools in that moment.
Which I understand. I totally understand. But here he gets to be, I think, in a more comfortable weight where he's not feeling some of those same pressures, puts him in a better mood.
Look, Uriah Hall was a very good fighter in the UFC.
Yes.
But outside of the famous Ultimate Fighter reality show spinning wheel kick knockout that he had that put him on the map, maybe he didn't really fully have his moment, if that's a thing. Do you think part of this is hey, we'll see what happens in this new sport, but maybe I find my moment?
Hard to say. We'll ask him a little bit about, how he feels about what he accomplished in MMA. I don't want to speak for him. Is he longing for something more, potentially? Is he doing it just for fun? Potentially, hard to say. But I'll say this. I don't think he's going to come in here and just, kick his feet up and just assume he's going to win. I think he also wants to stunt, right? As the kids say. I think he wants to go out there and impress and look good. Because, remember, when he had that knockout of the Ultimate Fighter, they were saying he was the next coming of Anderson Silva, right? He was the next guy who was going to take over. Didn't quite play out that way, even though he had some great wins. But here's a chance to not so much right some wrongs, BC. I don't think that's quite right. But show what he's really capable of. Show what kind of a devastating knockout artist he can be.
He may not have taken the baton from Anderson and went on to the same level of success. He did retire him, though, and finish him and stop him in Anderson's final UFC fight, as we mentioned. We'll be talking with Uriah Hall shortly. No shortage of star power at this event here, this open
Also,
workout.
No shortage of volume on the music. It's that's a very old man thing to complain about.
It is. You tried to speak like the kids there for a second with stunt. My kids always tell me I'm sus. Yo, Dad, you're acting very sus.
They call you sus?
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
As we see, Ashton Sylve, the 18-year-old unbeaten up-and-comer, 7-0 with 7 KOs. Luke, I'm going to be excited to ask him about this. We know about Devin Haney, undisputed lightweight champion in boxing. Turned pro as a teenager and went to Mexico, where it's legal. It's exactly what Ashton Sylve did as a 16-year-old. We'll talk to him about that shortly. We mentioned no shortage of star power in and around this ring. We're very fortunate to get a few minutes with them. And how about a little NFL royalty next to us? Le'Veon Bell is here.
What's up, brother?
Nice to see you.
Good to see y'all.
You'll be taking on a tough as heck matchup here, escalating from what you did against Adrian Peterson, now welcoming the UFC decorated Uriah Hall. But talk about this transition for you, because you made a viral moment there against Adrian Peterson on day one. Congratulations on that one.
Thanks. This transition been amazing. I embrace everything about it. I understand. Uriah Hall is a great great fighter. You know what I'm saying? He's been in his own field. Reached the highest level. Beat Silva. He beat Silva in a fight.
He did.
So I understand how serious the opponent is, but for me to prove to the world how serious I am about this sport, I got to take on opponents like this, and I got to beat them. Not just take them on, but beat them.
We were talking about your mindset before we got a chance to talk to you, trying to figure you out. You accomplished so much in the NFL. You have the type of career people, would have dreamed of when they enter. Is it just that itch to compete and prove yourself and do things that maybe people say you can? Is that what's still driving you?
Yes. Wow. Well, yeah.
I'm inside this guy's dome right now.
Real talk, because there's a lot of people who say you can't do something, or they don't believe you can do something. Like, a lot of people really don't believe things until they see it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So people are like, Le'Veon Bell switching over to boxing, and I'm saying, I'm gonna be the best at boxing at the weight class I'm at. People are like, they're gonna just wave me off. You know what I'm saying? Because they ain't seen it until I go out there and I gotta show that. You know what I'm saying? So, like right now, it's all talk until Saturday come, October 29th. I understand that everybody gives respect to Uriah Hall because he deserves it. So when I go out there and I showcase my skill, I feel like I'll be deserving of respect because I went out there and fought a guy like Uriah Hall, and people take me serious.
Biggest lesson you learned after when the fight with Peterson was over and you were back in the locker room? What was the first thing that really occurred to you? The biggest thing?
Man, I was just so on a high from the knockout. Like, I wasn't even thinking about anything negatively I did in the fight up until I started watching the fight. So when I get home and I watch that fight 500 times. Like, I'm like just watching things I can do better.
I don't mean negatively. I mean, like, what did you take from that experience that really
that gives you the confidence to go to this level?
Right,
now?
exactly.
To be honest, and there's no disrespect to Adrian Peterson, but I felt like it was just like a glorified like sparring match to me, because it's like I know where I wanted to go with this. That's not going to be the type of opponent that like people gonna give me respect for. I always do. Even when I'm sparring boxers. Like, I'm not sparring football players or just, you know, guys that's just in the gym. I'm sparring boxers. So and that helps me with my confidence. So when I went in there with Adrian Peterson and then I delivered, I'm like, oh, it gave me that confidence. Like, oh, dang, everything I've been doing has been working. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what happened. It's like, all right, well, that gave me that little edge. Like, oh, let me get back in the lab and continue to get better, and take on an opponent that, you know, I feel like people are going to respect, and let me go out there and do that same thing.
What's interesting is you were a running back, which is just one of the most difficult positions to play, contact first all the time. So I'm wondering, the transition to, no one likes to get hit in boxing, but certain people lose composure and certain people don't lose composure. Do you think your background as a running back helped you maintain composure?
Oh, so much. It's crazy you said that, because I was just talking to my trainer about it earlier. It's like in football, you have times where you get hit like hard. You might get hit hard, and I'm not gonna get up all angry about it, because I understand like it's part of the game. Like, I understand it's part of the game. So even in boxing, if a guy catches me with a punch, it's like, like I don't want to leave my hand down or whatever it is. I made a mistake, but I understand it's part of the game. So I don't want to get mad at it, because that's gonna take me off my game.
Right.
I lose my composure. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it'd be something that I made a mistake on, whatever, if I do get hit, and just don't make that same mistake again.
And one more for me, if I may, which is, okay, you went back and you watched your fight with Peterson a bunch of times, and obviously everyone knows part of being in the NFL is watching tape. There's plenty of tape on Uriah Hall, but at the same time, there's really no tape on Uriah Hall.
Right.
So how are you and your coach navigating that?
Honestly, you know, I'm just kind of going with it for what it is. In my first fight with Adrian Peterson, I had no tape on him or anything. With Uriah Hall, I guess there's only so much you can try to put on it, because in a UFC fight, if you watch them, they're like so much worried about kicks and other things, so like, and takedowns. So I can't really go off of that in a boxing match, just because he's going to be a little different. He's going to be different because he ain't got to worry about defending a kick or a takedown or me kicking, you know what I'm saying, him kicking me or whatever. So it's going to really like be his first one. It's going to be like, I'm going to take it as if I'm sparring somebody random. Like, all right, I just got to fill him out and go from there.
All right, Le'Veon, we're going to throw the ring in a second, so let me close your time with this. You've scored big touchdowns, 80,000 people going nuts, and you knocked Adrian Peterson out with one punch.
The touchdown.
Explain the rushes. What feels better? Why are they different?
The touchdown don't compare to a knockout. The touchdown don't compare to a knockout. The knockout, I was on a high for so long. Like, it felt so good. You know what I'm saying? I talked to Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson was cool and everything after that. He respected it, but it's like that high of having a knockout was just, that takes the cake on anything, bro. Because it's like, man, all that hard work I did, it really paid off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and it was my first one, so it's like, I go out here and do it again. I got to go out here and do it again.
All right, we wish you luck. We're going to throw it to the ring.
Admire your courage.
Yes, sir.
Ramblin' Ralph is with Ashton Sylve. Thank you very much, Le'Veon Bell. We'll see you Saturday night.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I'm sitting here with Ashton H2O Sylve, 7-0, all 7 victories by way of knockout. Dude, I've been on the backside of boxing like 12 years, getting able to see, talk to different people that normally the fans wouldn't get to talk to. And like for the last year, bro, from Vegas to California, Florida, even Mexico, that's all they've been talking about is you, bro, right? You had 10 national championships. You turned pro at 16. Can you do me a favor and tell these guys what that meant for you? You couldn't just run around like a regular 16-year-old, have fun, go to the mall, whatever. You started from a very, very young age, a very disciplined life and a very disciplined regimen.
I mean, I feel like that's all it was for me, discipline. So it gave me the, the advantage of being able to turn pro at an early age. And I feel like it was a head start for me. Like, I could be done my boxing career at an early age, 30 years old if I wanted to. So that's what I feel like turning pro at 16 did for me.
You could have gone anywhere in your career. Many people were after you. You came here to MVP. Tell us why. Tell us why you made that decision.
What'd you say again?
You could have gone anywhere you wanted to in the boxing world. You ended up here with MVP. Tell everybody why you made that decision.
I mean, just look at it. I mean, it's just the perfect path for me. It was the most fitted for me at the end of the day. We talked to my team over and over, and like you said, I had multiple offers on the table, but nothing just suited with me. So when the offer came to the table with MVP, it was just kind of like right there for me.
Well, you put in the effort as a young kid, 10 national championships. That's not easy to do. We wish you the best of luck. Guys, give him a big round of applause. He's the co-main event on the pay-per-view. Ashton H2O Sylve. Look out for this kid.
Good catching up there with Ashton Sylve, unbeaten 7-0, a rising prospect in the boxing space, and nobody reps Arizona like Ramblin' Ralph. Give that man the respect he deserves,
really is.
all right?
Arizona to the core.
It's Diamondbacks in the house right there. Le'Veon Bell, what's your takeaway from chatting with him? That was a good conversation with him.
He seemed thoughtful. He seemed in shape, ready.
Not afraid. Not afraid
Not
at all.
afraid, but you know what? But not being silly about it either, right? Like, I got that right part where it's like, you know, there's not just much, there's just hardly any tape on Hall in the meaningful sense for this moment. So you got to just take it for what it is. I admire his courage. Did he bite off more than he could chew? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'll tell you what, given the skills he has and the experience he has, he set himself up, I think, the best he possibly could, given the
And look,
conditions.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's necessarily coming in here to, like, outbox Uriah Hall and move in and out and win every round. He may be just looking to land that explosive counterpunch that either changes the direction of the fight or ends it like he did against Adrian Peterson. Isn't that the quickest way to overcome any type of lack of actual combat experience? By being the type of guy that can finish it with one blow.
I mean, you go back to the fight between Ray Mercer and former UFC heavyweight champion Tim Sylvia.
They fought in MMA.
Yeah, the rules got changed a million times, but Ray Mercer was very old at the time they fought. And so Ray said, you know what? Forget it. Ran in and threw the hardest punch he could to begin the whole fight. Landed it clean. And by the way, what do they say, BC? Power is the last thing to go. And he sat down all 6'9" and 300-plus pounds of Tim Sylvia.
The maniac.
The maniac. So it just goes to show, if there's a skill differential or whatnot, sometimes it calls for drastic measures. Sometimes it calls for taking the fight by the scruff of the neck.
Wow. Wow, Luke Thomas right there. I remember that fight. That was supposed to be a mixed rules fight.
Yes.
The commission had issues with it. Ray Mercer said, all right, it's got to be an MMA fight.
Fine.
Let's do it.
And so he went there and just punched his lights out.
Former heavyweight champion. Had a chance to meet Ray Mercer recently for the first time.
Merciless.
Merciless in person as well. Absolutely. Wow, interesting mix of personalities, celebrities, brands at an event like this. We've seen it all. We still hope to catch up with Uriah Hall, Ashton Sylve, Jake Paul and Anderson Silva still to come. They're the main event. Ashton Sylve will be in the co-main event spot. But as I was setting up before, I mean, to turn pro at 16, which Sylve did, but go south of the border, take pro fights in Mexico instead of going the traditional amateur Olympic route. I mean, we've seen it to a certain degree in the NBA, right? Where you don't have to go to college for a year. You can go to the G League or go to international. It is an interesting way to do it, to turn pro that young. We don't think in boxing, right? Tennis, we could have 12-year-old, 13-year-olds, right? Olympic swimming on the female side, you can get very young. You don't see this aged boxers or mixed martial artists, for the most part, have this type of success early.
No, you don't. And also, when you do the route like that, where you don't take the traditional development programs, taking a big risk. You're taking a big risk about whether or not it works. Now, yeah, if you've got a Devin Haney and you know how good he is, you could probably listen. All the very best ones, BC, you know this, in every sport, they get ahead by kind of breaking the rules, by kind of breaking the traditions, breaking the norms. Devin Haney was able to do it, but Devin Haney has a pound-for-pound claim, sort of being on that list, as and obviously is unified in the weight class. But and a guy like Ashton Sylve, it's a huge risk, but so far it has paid off.
But I mean, that is how it's done often in Mexico, where amateur careers are often eschewed. We see Canelo turning pro, 15 turning pro, having the same amount of fights more or less as Floyd Mayweather when they finally fought in 2013 when Canelo was so young. It's wild, but people come into boxing and different roads to get here, as we've illustrated through this walkthrough. But Le'Veon Bell, to circle back there, who will be taking on Uriah Hall. I don't know. I'll give him a puncher's chance in this one. I will. I'll give him a legitimate, athletic, explosive puncher's chance. We'll see what he has and what kind of doors that can open up on this side. Because, from hearing him talk, it wasn't let me get this payday. It wasn't let me cross this challenge off. It was let me see what I can do in this sport.
Yeah, and again, for Bell is like all in on this boxing adventure. And Uriah Hall it seems like you got the call on vacation. Hey, here's an interesting opportunity. I'll take it. I don't know if he has designs on becoming the biggest boxer he can be after his MMA career is over. So there's something of a different mindset. The problem is the skill differential between them should be extraordinary, you would think. So we'll see how those different aspects play out.
Well, one thing to remember is, you know, Jake in the past, Jake Paul has put Tommy Fury on his undercards, maybe as a potential. Let's see the reaction from the crowd, the performance on this level. You wonder, is that a potential for somebody like a Uriah Hall, somebody like whomever is on this card? Can they shine, take that step forward, enter this conversation? It comes down to guts and performance and what they can do out there. So it's interesting what the Paul brothers have brought. Now, we say Paul brothers. Logan took just one fight, a big one, against Floyd Mayweather last year.
Yeah.
He has transitioned to the WWE, and while you may not watch that, Luke, he's at the highest level, going to enter Survivor Series against Roman Reigns. So, you know, you do wonder here as, wow, let's bring him right in. Let's not waste any more time. Uriah Hall's favorite interviewers are sitting right next to Uriah Hall.
We're going to be nice, Uriah. We're going to be nice. How are you, Uriah?
I can't stand these dudes. I really can't. All this is for show.
Okay.
All right, fair enough. That's
fine. Thank you for fulfilling your contracted obligations. But Uriah, we're excited about you entering into this space. We don't know what to expect from Le'Veon Bell. What do you expect from him?
I don't know what to expect. I know he's a world-class athlete of the sport, and I know he's going to be strong, and I know that I'm prepared.
I love it. I love the passion in this guy right now.
Do you have designs on doing boxing past this event? Like, what are your plans now post-MMA?
My plan is to chill, figure it out. You know, that's what life is all about. I talked about a little bit what happened over the reoccurrence of leaving MMA. You know, I fell into a deep hole, a deep depression, actually. I mean, so deep that I actually contemplated possibly taking my own life. I remember that thought.
Did you really?
Absolutely. I sat there in my house for a week straight, literally saying, what am I going to do? Because you're only identified by this thing for so long. I've been doing it for 20 years. That's all I'm known for. I'm Uriah Hall, the fighter. What is Uriah Hall after fighting? So I know a lot of athletes go through that, and a lot of people don't talk about it. I think depression is something we all go through in our own type of way, but we don't talk about it. We mask it. And then when you see someone take their own life, you're like, oh my God, yeah, that shit is fucking real. So I did fell in that deep hole. Luckily, I had the right people to pull me out and the support system, and just even coming out my house to do normal stuff. It took me weeks to get back in a routine of training. So when I was on vacation and my coach called me about it, I was like, man, fuck this shit. But, you know, I thought about it. I'm a competitor at heart, and I love to compete. So not too much that I know about this guy, but I respect him for stepping in there. I respect anyone for stepping in there because that's not easy to do. Just to walk alone is scary, just to step inside that ring or octagon. So it's just going to, you know, we're going to go out there and impose each other will.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate you having the guts to walk that out the way you have and that you're on this side of it now. How much fun have you had just focusing on just boxing? And look, this is a spectacle, Jake Paul boxing, as much as it is legitimate boxing. Have you enjoyed this, walking into this new realm?
You know, I've learned at a young age to enjoy the process, but sometimes I forget. And I think everything that we do, different fields, we forget to enjoy that process. We're so fixated on that end result. And it cost me a lot in my career because I was so worried about the outcome. So I've enjoyed the process leading up to this. The training is completely different. You know, it's not as grueling as at mixed martial arts where you got to train your wrestling, your jiu-jitsu, and all the other dynamics. But it's a little one-dimensional where it's just boxing, his hands, a different type of cardio. You know, I was talking about when Floyd fought McGregor in round 9, you know, he basically did the rope-a-dope. A lot of fighters were like, wait a minute, why is Floyd not really, you know what I'm saying? So it's a different type of training, and I respect boxing a lot because, you know, we got the greats that come from it. So.
I was going to say, physically, you look like you feel pretty good, right? Like
I feel amazing, man. Like I said, I don't enjoy the process as much as I should have, and this is one of the things I focus on. I can get out there and get knocked the fuck out. It's not my idea, it's not my plan, but I've step away from control the narrative. You know, I'm here right now. This is what I got. When I step away from this little section of the seat, this is all I really have. You know, and I don't live in that world anymore where I have to pretend. I don't have to. People are going to like you, people don't. I don't mind being disliked. I have the courage to be disliked because I get to be me at the end of the day. Because when you die, I mean, we're going to be sad for like maybe a month, and then life's going to get the fuck on. That's it. So why would I waste my time worrying about what people think?
I've always loved you, Uriah. You may not like us, but I've loved you because you're real.
That was bullshit.
You're real.
I was just fucking with them the
It's
whole
okay.
time.
Hey, listen, it's okay. I understand.
That was bullshit.
Do you remember seeing me at the airport? Do you remember this?
I do remember. You were going to catch your flight, yeah.
Yes, I was going to catch a flight. I don't know if you remember me or not.
Yeah, I remember. I definitely remember.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Listen, I love everybody. I'm only racist in my car, but I love everybody. You know, I hope we all can vote by cereal. I'll love it.
All right,
Hey, hold on, real quickly. You mentioned your coach gave you the call. You're talking about Saif Saud?
Saif Saud, yeah.
Okay, so who is cornering you for this fight? Who have you been working with in camp? Because Saif's an amazing coach, but he's an MMA coach. Has he been your boxing coach here as well?
I mean, I always have my old school boxing coach, Clayton Hires, who won't be with us this time, which, you know, I mean, he's been with me since day one, you know, and, you know, he's got some stuff going on. But Saif, of course, boxing is his first thing that we always focus on. You know, he's always with the hands. The wrestling and all that stuff comes in to play, but I've been working with him a lot with that. I feel pretty confident. I have one of my ninja coach, I call him. His name is Arnold Chun, and I'm pretty sure you've seen him. He's
Is
in
he
a
the
lot
bald
of
guy?
movies. Yeah.
Yes.
Asian guy. He's been in a lot of movies and stuff, but he's literally a real-life ninja. So I've been working with him, and, of course, my number one sparring partner, who's Obi. We call him Obi-Wan, the black version. But, you know, having all these three guys, I feel like it was a great testament. And, of course, my strength and conditioning coach, who makes me feel like Iron Man.
What's your walk-around weight right now?
I mean, man.
Hard to say?
My walk-around weight is fat, and I should stop.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's got to feel good.
You look happy, though.
We were saying this on camera. It's got to feel good to not be cutting weight to 185.
It feels really good. I wish and I hope we can do something about it in the future to, you know, with the whole weight cutting for this sport, because it's so grueling on the body. I know some people, they perform really well, but for others, you're like, man, they can't really find their happy medium. Like, I am solid at 195, but unfortunately, they didn't have any 195 for MMA. Right. But I feel pretty good. It's just discipline at the end of the day.
All right, let me ask you this to close, because this is a different field right now, the Jake Paul silo of boxing.
Yeah.
If you're victorious and you look great, and there's odds makers I think are going to favor you in this type of matchup, are you looking at this Jake Paul Anderson Sylve matchup and thinking,
I got next?
Hey, I can be in line.
I'm not going to fight Anderson. That's just, I mean, I have too much respect for him. The last fight was even more difficult. It's like beating up my dad. It sucked.
Yeah.
So I love him to death. Jake Paul, definitely. That was the motivation that really got me to do this. I said, if there's a potential chance to fight this dude, I'll do it. So I can expose him. That's it.
So before you go, give me a breakdown for the main event. What do you think it hinges on?
So I know stylistically, you know, we got age and we got the gap, and a lot of people are focused on that. I say, you know, Anderson Silva has a lot of wear and tear and all that mileage and all that stuff, and Jake is young. Of course, possibly he's going to be a favorite, but Anderson is a G. You know, he's been in the sport for so long, and he's the type of guy to adjust, and that's why he's doing stuff like that. He loves that challenge, that mentality. It doesn't die for him, and I feel like he's going to be 95 years old still doing this stuff. Where, you know, I don't know Jake's real motive. If he says he wants to really become a boxer, then kudos to him. I know it's hard to step in there and do that stuff, but I think that fight is going to be a feeling out process first, maybe a couple of rounds, because Anderson likes to kind of say, all right, where you at? What you got? What can you do? What can I do? And then I don't see Anderson backing up too much. If he does, I just see him being so elusive. And I don't know about chin factor. People are going to say age plays a gap in that, but, you know, Anderson has a good chin, man. Boxing with the 10-ounce gloves plays a difference.
Wow,
if that makes sense.
It does.
You're taking on Le'Veon Bell. We can't wait. Best of luck in this new chapter. It's great to see you, man.
Thank you.
We like you, Uriah. I know you may not think that, but we do. We do.
A warrior right here. We love this guy. Uriah Hall, thank you so much. I believe Anderson Silva is going to be in the ring shortly for his workout, and we, of course, are going to be chatting with the aforementioned rising young stud here. I believe they call him H2O. Is that the nickname?
That's a hell of a nickname.
Okay, he's like water. His name is Ashton Sylve, and this early in his career, 7-0, going to be in the co-main event slot on Showtime pay-per-view.
My man still got braces, and he's in the co-main event.
18 years old, Ashton Sylve. These lights not too bright for you, right?
Nah, they're good.
Okay. Tell us about your opponent, who you'll be facing here in this co-main event.
I'm facing Braulio Rodriguez. I think he's 20-4.
He's legitimately experienced, a veteran of this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect matchup for me, you know, to put me on the next stage and closer to my goal. So, I mean, I'm excited for tomorrow.
Braulio Rodriguez has only lost to unbeaten fighters, by the way.
Fair enough. The first time you went down to Mexico to fight, nerves, craziness.
16 years old going down to Mexico.
Walk me through the first time you went and what was going through your head.
The first time was crazy, but that's the one they didn't count. So I'm actually 8-0, but, you know, that's not on the right. But anyways, it was in Rosarito, Mexico, and I mean, just the whole build-up for it. Like, it was my first professional fight, and I was 16 years old at the time. So, you know, everybody was just kind of wild over that. You know, that I didn't go to the Olympics. I wait to go to the Olympics. So, once I got down there, I was shocked to even see, you know, the fans from out there was just, you know, crowd around at the gate, like escorted and everything. So it was pretty big, a lot larger than what I thought. So day of the fight night, we had the whole ring like crowded, like it was crazy. You just have to look at the video. But anyways, like the nerves, I had a bit of nerves, but my nerves only comes from my family. Like, you know, I don't want to disappoint them or let them down. So that's the only time, like, I'm like nervous. Like, oh, what if I don't have a great performance? Like, you know, they expect me to. But like facing an opponent or anything else like that, like the fans or anything, it doesn't bring any nerves at all.
What makes you different? And I say that because you're wired a bit different. Going to Mexico at 16. At 18, co-main event of a pay-per-view, Jake Paul kind of saying, look, that's the kid. That's the kid that I think is going to be something. Let's bring him in. What about your upbringing, your youth, prepared you for this?
My father, I feel like he was just the man behind the plan of all of it. Since I was 8 years old inside the gym, I was noticed by Floyd the first month into my boxing. You know, they invited me out there to one of his camps. So just the lead up of that and, you know, always being disciplined and, you know, staying consistent, making sure I get the right experience, going overseas. You know, just everything, just the lead up to that, and that's why I'm here today.
For folks who haven't seen you box, right, people who might be watching here or going to watch on Saturday night, how would you describe your style?
I tell people I feel like I'm a mobile brawler.
A mobile brawler.
I have to come up because I don't feel like I'm too much of a boxer, but I don't feel like I'm too much like, you know, just inside banging it out. I feel like I'm like right in a pocket where, you know, like I let my hands go enough, but it's not what you consider like, you know, like a brawler. So I feel like I'm a mobile brawler.
Mobile brawler.
You mentioned Floyd. You've done a lot of work training at the Mayweather Boxing Gym in Las Vegas. There's like a toughness factor just to get in that ring and prove it to them.
Yeah.
How daunting was that when you stepped up to that?
Once I was 8, I think that was my first time when I went out there. So I sparred in, you know, the little ring. Like one day before I was out there for a week, I sparred there the day before. Then Floyd wasn't there, but he wanted to see it. Like he heard like, you know, I did good or whatever he heard. So the next day I had to get back in the ring. And you know, the big ring, so it was like you said, the doghouse, like, you know, people pounding
There's
the
different
ring.
rules in that ring.
Oh yeah.
So and that's also, I feel like, prepared me for, you know, the stages today.
For sure. All right, decision making with you and your father. Promoters looking into you, going, this kid's got something. Why'd you sign with MVP Jake Paul?
Like I tell everybody, I feel like it was best fit for me, and I was able to have the freedom or, you know, the say so if I wanted to. And I mean, look where I'm at right now. You know, this is my 9th fight, and you know, I'm co-main in a big arena. I don't think no other, you know, promoter or any, you know, company that would be able to do something like that for me.
Imagine being 18 and having what he's walking into here. I mean,
it's not what I was
opportunities.
Doing at 18, I can assure you. Let me ask, what do you think is Jake's? If you were cornering Jake, imagine he called you, he's like, I need you to corner me for the fight against Ashton Sylve. You got to do it. What advice would you give him to beat Silva?
That's a hard question. I never really actually watched Silva, but one thing I can say is for the first few rounds, I feel like Jake is bigger than Silva. I feel like he has to wear him out. In my prediction, I feel like Jake has to wear him out, you know, get him tired, then, you know, finish him at the end of the rounds. Like, basically pace himself until, you know, later on in the rounds. I feel like that's where it'll be at for Jake.
Fair enough.
All right, Ashton Sylve, we can't wait to check you out. Just 18 years old. Co-main event against Braulio Rodriguez, a decorated veteran.
Hey, let me ask you, as an 18-year-old, what does an 18-year-old do at an after party?
We can't talk about that on the air.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It stays in the DMs
All
where
right,
it belongs.
fair enough.
But H2O, Ashton Sylve, best of luck to you. It's great chatting with you.
Thank you. Same here.
Wow, we got a nice mix of personalities, of Uriah Hall and us we made nice with him, right?
Well, I came on here, was like, I hate these two, and I was like, Dad, is that you?
Yeah.
Who is that? I couldn't tell
You know,
who that
he
was.
remembered shouting you out at the airport.
He did? I wasn't making that story up. He didn't do that.
Okay.
But you know what? Here's the thing. Uriah has always had a love-hate relationship with the MMA media. For folks who may not know that. So if he does hate us, it's cool. I understand. That doesn't hurt my feelings at all. But I also know he's, you know, he was in a weird spot because he was promoted to be something, and then he was held up to these expectations that were not fair to him. And did he live up to them? No, not the ones that were set for him, but he still had a pretty good career. So it's been a weird thing for him.
Absolutely. And to hear
also,
him,
shouts to Uriah for opening up about his mental health
exactly
struggles.
where I was going.
I will give him support for that
I
for sure.
could not support him more in coming to terms with that, being honest, going public with it, like he just did with us, and talking about the struggle he went through, trying to find a post-career identity. I mean, anyone retiring from anything, that's true, but combat sports, it seems like even more in terms of what's driving you anymore to get out of bed. So it seems like, you know, at the very least, Uriah's found a better perspective, in a more positive place, and has found now a new outlet where he can continue to compete and show that warrior
And let me
spirit.
say something. As somebody who has lost a family member, or a very close family member, one of my parents, to suicide, if someone's out there that you know that's saying something like that, take it seriously, get some help. And if you're out there one of those kinds of people, there's suicide hotlines, anything like that, take it all seriously. Mental health is the most important thing. And I applaud Uriah Hall for doing that.
Without question. You heard the name, Ashton Sylve, set now to begin his open workout.
Look around, BC.
Here in Glendale,
I gotta
Arizona.
tell you, this is much bigger
This crowd
than the crowd
has
in Cleveland.
filled in, to say the very least, and the Spider is here. You try to find a combat sports athlete more decorated than Ashton Sylve. You'd be there a while.
I think Henry Cejudo would say something about that.
That's fair. That's
Triple
fair.
C.
Is he an Arizona guy?
He went to Grand Canyon University. I don't know where. Yes, I think his gym is here. That's right.
Shout out to Baby America. All right. Henry Cejudo could be making a UFC comeback soon, but you won't find him more decorated than Ashton Sylve, and I think you'd agree, Luke. You certainly won't find him more beloved in his own space. Now, certainly he has fans outside of the world in MMA, but in MMA, if I can compare that to boxing, I always say he's like the Sugar Ray Leonard of MMA, meaning so decorated, but people just respect and love the Bushido side, the dedication, the ability to carry his skills late into his career. I mean, he's almost 50 years old, and look where he is right now.
I mean, listen,
only legends can do this. Seriously, only the greatest of the legends can do stuff like this.
So folks who may not understand Silva's appeal, yes, this is prize fighting, and he's a prize fighter, of course. But he, as BC indicated, he always brought in a bit of a martial arts spirit. Not every time. The fight against Vitor Belfort was highly contentious, but in other cases, bowing to opponents and speaking respectfully. And remember, he had 2 fights with Chael Sonnen where Chael Sonnen assassinated his character, and he never really fired back in the same way. He kind of accepted
it. To the barbecue that they never had.
Invited him to the barbecue at the press conference with the opener here for the Jake Paul and Ashton Sylve fight. So he's always had a bit of that martial arts spirit, and that has been something that the fans, in addition to the brutal knockouts and everything else he's done, have responded to.
We've seen a little media dust up the last few days. Anderson admitting that he's training so hard for this fight, suffered a couple knockdowns in the training for
he
it.
said knockouts.
It got misrepresented due to the English language barriers that he faced, although Anderson's English has come around incredibly well in the second half of his career. But I think he's trying to show us, Luke, that he hasn't been knocked out in sparring, but he's coming to fight. And if Jake Paul can succeed in turning this into a track meet, into a fight, it could look very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been knocked out in camp, you can't fight, right? So that's sort of the issue there. He did clarify it was a bit of a language barrier issue and that he meant to say knockdown or however he conceived of it. I tend to think, also here, I'll say this as well, Anderson Silva will play games. Like in the media, he will say things that are just not true just to kind of have fun. Not like malicious slander or lies or anything like that, but just, gonna drop a little sauce on this whole thing.
Spider dust on it.
Yeah, and see what happens. So I don't take it too seriously. I don't think it's real. I don't think you have to worry about it, but it did happen.
I strongly dislike spiders in real life, okay? That's just my personal preference.
Don't move to Australia.
Yes.
Don't
Anderson
do that.
Silva, though, my favorite of all the spiders. 47 years old. We break it down ad nauseum, but, man, still a lot left in that tank. It'll be interesting betting-wise, odds-wise. Where will the final line lay come?
Yeah.
It's been back and forth. It's flipped. The experience against the youth, there's a lot to factor into here. Both fighters have shown, Anderson Silva and Jake Paul, just tremendous mental strength in the build-up to this. No trash talking really at all.
No. None.
Will that here's my question to you. Will that change? Will there be a part of both of them, or maybe Jake, who's more natural to be the troll, the agitator? Will something turn? Should it turn? Does it have to turn? For Jake to win this on Saturday, does he have to push Anderson at the final stare down?
It'll sell some pay-per-views if he does, but I don't think so. He's really talked quite respectfully about Anderson Silva. You've heard that as well, and saying, I'm going to knock him out respectfully, that kind of a thing, which is a little crazy and silly, but you sort of get what needle he's trying to thread there. No, I don't think so. And also, it's just a really different vibe. Like, Woodley came in, full of agitation and like, I got something to prove. Anderson does have something to prove on Saturday, but in the larger sense of his career, one of the most revered and celebrated figures. And Woodley is celebrated as well, but Anderson is in a class of his own. I think even Woodley would tell you something like that. And so he's a little bit more at ease with the whole situation. And again, even if Jake wanted to make it ugly, the only time, not the only time, but one of the very few times I've ever seen Anderson really get angry was that Vitor Belfort fight when he put on the Jabberwocky's mask, and they had an issue there. But short of that, he's been pretty even-keeled.
We talked earlier about not just Anderson's accomplishments, but his ability to rise to the occasion and make, you know, we call them viral moments now, but make the kind of, oh crap moments, I've never seen that before. Is there one that stands out above the rest when you look over the great career? Obviously, from the MMA side of Ashton Sylve, that's like, watch this highlight to tell you everything you need to know about him.
Yeah, there's two of them I'm going to point to. Two of them. The Vitor Belfort one, by the way, the front kick to the face.
It was like Karate Kid. I mean,
yeah, and here's the funny part. After Anderson did that, you begin to see more front kicks to the face because people begin to copy him. But there's two I would want you to watch. Number one, Ashton Sylve's UFC debut. Anderson had 23 fights before he ever fought in the UFC. He fought in places like Cage Rage. He also fought in places like Pride, which was a big organization at the time, in Japan. His UFC debut opponent was Chris the Crippler Lieben, who had come off The Ultimate Fighter. And in the promo package ahead of that fight, Lieben promised to, quote, send him back to Japan. Anderson beat the balls off of him, knocked
about
him out.
a minute and a half.
Viciously, dropped him several times, and did it like he was doing target practice on him. Unbelievable
and that was a
UFC
who
debut.
Won about 6 or 7 in a row.
Yeah, and by the way, Lieben was a heavy hitter and had a good chin, and Anderson polished him off. The other one, of course, as I mentioned earlier, was against Forrest Griffin, where he had gone up to 205 pounds and took on the previous champion in that weight class and made him and just dummied him.
Video
made him
game.
look silly.
It was a real life video game to be able to plant the traps, duck out of it like the Matrix, and then come back with combination. I don't even think he knocked him out. I think he just embarrassed Forrest Griffin to the point where he was just like,
Forrest Griffin actually, I feel bad for him, but after Anderson beat him so thoroughly, he wasn't there. I don't believe when they read this. When they read the decision,
he ran out of the cage.
He ran out of the cage back to the dressing room.
Yes, there you have it. Many iconic moments in the great career. Obviously, we didn't even mention the comeback win against Chael Sonnen with the broken ribs.
Yeah,
and the goatee.
Again, even before he fought UFC,
round.
he fought Lightning Lee Murray, who's now in a Moroccan jail for one of the most amazing bank heists in human history. This is a true story. Ashton Sylve gave him the business. So he's had a long, decorated career of beating up very, very good fighters.
We're replaying the greatest hits here as we await Ashton Sylve. He is here. Let's go to it right now. The Spider is among us.
Are you ready? No. I just bragged about you guys 10 minutes ago. Glendale, Arizona, are you ready? Introducing the next fighter, a UFC legend and now professional boxer from Sao Paulo, Brazil. He has the longest title reign in UFC history, 2,457 days, more than 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Anderson, the Spider Silva.
Don't get it twisted. This rap shit is mine, motherfuckers.
Give it up, everybody. Anderson, the Spider Silva.
That's what you hearing. That's what you hearing. Listen. That's what you hearing. Listen. That's what you hearing. Listen. X gon' give it to you. Fuck waiting for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you.
You see him right there, the living legend, Ashton Sylve. Hey, for 47 years young, he was nimble coming out here, playing up the crowd. He loves the energy. Look, one thing you'll say about Anderson, that isn't always the case for somebody of his level of success. He just loves to entertain. It's that showman side we talked about in counting down his greatest moments. Almost more than winning the fight, Luke Thomas. Ashton Sylve wants to leave you with that moment, and that's something special.
He is a talent. He is a towering figure in the sport of mixed martial arts, and he's an entertainer and a showman. And I think, win or lose, you're going to get a taste of all of that on Saturday, because he just doesn't compete any other way than with all of those forces combining together to create something pretty special.
You may not have caught episode 1 of All Access, Paul Silva, which is available at Showtime. Fantastic work as always, Barry Pepper narrating, but they went into Anderson Silva's like man room, and the one thing he said was, look, I got this money, but I don't spend it on cars like people expect me to. I got my own thing. He showed them the room that had every action figure from a superhero movie or a comic book that you ever could have imagined. He's got movie figurines. It's like seeing a grown man who says, I'm still a kid at heart. You know, I loved seeing that in him, seeing that these are the things that, look, he's always been like the Michael Jackson of MMA, the dancing, the movements. He's always appreciated, like, got the Spider-Man nickname, you know, Spider. It seems like the kid in him is the reason why he's still doing this, right? I mean, it's that, like, that wide-eyed, I just love to compete, I just love to show out, I just love to perform. He's doing it right now. He knows we've all been waiting for him. He came out here on Spider Time. Let's see if he can do that Saturday night against Jake Paul, who's young, hungry, and powerful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think he relishes this opportunity, to be honest with you. And it was something that we talked about. Like, when he exited MMA, he fought his last his last bout against Uriah, who was a good opponent, but there was no fans in the arena at the time. It was at the UFC Apex. Look at him here. Like, the fans want to see him. They want to be a part of it. They want to see the great Anderson Silva one more time. Can he deliver that magic one more time? And again, we should just say this out loud because it's just a fact, BC. Tell me if I'm wrong. MMA fans desperately want Anderson Silva to stretch Jake Paul. True or false?
I'd say that's true. There's a little bit, if you're an MMA fan, of Jake, I'm not sure I should accept you as a real boxer yet.
Right.
And you're coming into our space of MMA. You're taking our legends, or at least trying to. And what you did against Tyron Woodley in that rematch is you're stretching our legends. You're making viral moments a mockery. You're calling out the McGregors, the Masvidals, the Diazes. Well, now you're fighting our real hero. I made that Sugar Ray Leonard comparison. Now you're fighting somebody who MMA fans look at as royalty, but like there's levels to royalty, right? This is above the regular kingship in MMA. This is folk hero who's still got it. So yes, the MMA fan is trying to see if Jake Paul gets exposed, but if he's going to get exposed, they want to see the king do that.
So listen, there's it's a dated meme, but it's relevant. The leave Britney alone meme.
Yeah.
That's kind of how MMA fans feel about Anderson Silva. They don't want anything to tarnish, or in their mind, sully everything that he's done. But listen, Silva's here to win. I guarantee you he has trained hard. I guarantee you he has prepared himself. And again, we saw what happened in Mexico when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He kind of gave him the business, BC.
He disarmed him. He disciplined him. He made Chavez not do what is really the only thing left that Chavez still can do at a high level, which is get inside on you, go to the body, let his hands go, pressure you. Silva didn't let him because he stung him with clean counter shots. That's what you're going to have to be looking for in this matchup with Jake Paul. Whatever plan A Jake Paul has with some very smart minds behind him, the sparring with Chad Dawson, the fact that we have to expect that Jake has grown in the past year, you know, outside the ring training, getting better, adding to his craft and skill. You get hit with one of those shots you don't see coming. Silva's still got that. And look, it's interesting. If you didn't know any better and you looked at the win-loss record, the Wikipedia page, if you will, of Anderson Silva, you will see a lot of losses in a successive path to close his UFC run. But it doesn't tell the full story. He was ultra competitive in almost every single one of these fights. He suffered catastrophic injuries in 2 of these fights.
Catastrophe was the word you were looking for.
It's a catastrophe, me trying to speak English right now. And just 2 years ago, was it? He fought at the highest levels against current middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. It was the #1 contender fight. He lost it by 3-round decision. But he
took a round.
He took a round from Adesanya, and my personal belief is, to a certain degree, he disarmed even Adesanya, who did enough to win the fight, but wasn't able to walk all over him, walk him down, put it on him, like maybe he should have against then a 45-year-old ex-fighter. When it's time to perform, the scary part about Silva is he'll still empty everything that's left. He took that fight against Daniel Cormier at UFC 200 in 2016 on about 3 days' notice, moved up a weight class. And
doubled him over with a brutal front kick to the liver.
Hurt him to the body late and made DC kind of start backing up. So we know it's still in them. What is that it? The ability to fight every minute, every second of every round at a high level like a 30-year-old? No. But the ability to make special moments, the ability to take you off of your game plan, the ability to knock you out in this space. We've seen that. We saw Tito Ortiz walk into that. It happens. Jake Paul's a better boxer than this version of Tito Ortiz, yes. But this is why those betting odds are slipping back and forth. We know he's still got it, but how much of it does he still got? That's going to be the question you can only answer.
Yeah, one more thing to sort of note here. You heard, I believe the ring announcer mentioned this. Anderson Silva has the longest title-defending win streak in UFC history. Now, recently, he is now former UFC welterweight champion Kamaru Usman was on the verge of potentially, I believe, tying or breaking, right? BC was going to tie him, I think.
The win streak is 16.
16. And right at the moment where he was going to put his name right next to Anderson Silva's, he got head kick KO'd in the 5th round.
In a fight he was winning, by the way.
So it just goes to show that the kind of work that Anderson Silva did in the UFC is going to stand the test of time. It already has to some degree. It will not soon be easy for a guy to put together the kind of win streak at the title level that Anderson Silva did.
And let's be fair here. Not everybody's skills, as we said earlier, can translate from MMA to boxing easily, meaning in a short time period, one big training camp for a big opportunity. Anderson's already passed that test. He has the footwork. You can see how he moves like a boxer. Let's be honest with it. He moves like a boxer. He's already made that leap. So he's able to, look, he's a freak of nature. Athletically and speed-wise. That's why he can still fight at this level. But he's already sort of made that leap that hiccups a lot of guys attempting to do this. He's got no shortage of confidence, but I wonder how much his confidence goes, look, I fought in the UFC at the highest level. I got a 16-fight win streak. Nobody's been able to do that. It is so easy, as you just mentioned. Kamaru Usman was beating Rocky Edwards for 4.5 rounds until he got head kicked and lost. There are so many ways to lose at the highest level of MMA that when an Anderson Silva, a John Jones, a GSP, an Amanda Nunes, when they run off these type of win streaks, we have to realize this is so super impressive because there's so many ways to lose. Is boxing easier? There's not as many ways to lose. You can get knocked out with one punch,
Boxing is not easier.
But is this easier for Anderson than preparing for a high-level MMA fight?
Well, it's certainly, listen, we've heard MMA fighters say it's less taxing on their body, and I believe that because if you're an MMA fan, you know you can be like, oh, I'm excited for the next big event that's happening next month, whatever it is, and fights fall out with much more regularity due to injury than in boxing. It's just harder on your body. However, what folks need to understand is...
Ramblin' Ralph just took a combo right there.
I see that. But the point I want to make was it's not easier because the specificity of skill at the highest level in boxing it takes a lifetime to reach that. You can't just come over here and, because I have a experience in a related combat sport, I can just sort of naturally transition over.
Sure.
So no, it's not easier in that sense, but I do think that we've heard enough from MMA fighters say, God, I feel so much better. I believe that. And again, the proof of the fact that the guys don't fall out so often in boxing relative to MMA is, I think, concept there being shown.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we are just outside the front doors of Desert Diamond Arena here in Glendale, Arizona. Of course, it all goes down Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, Showtime pay-per-view when Jake Paul and Anderson Silva just next door do it. We're outside here, good fan presence. We got celebrities in the house. Nate Diaz walking by. No shortage of star power here. Arizona's an interesting spot for this fight. Could have gone to Las Vegas, could have gone anywhere, right? Jake tried to fight Madison Square Garden against Hasim Rahman Jr., but that fell apart. We'll be interested to see, I
like it when they go to non-traditional markets.
Exactly.
I have to tell you, I like it a lot.
We saw them in Cleveland. We stayed next to the bus station.
We
Maybe I'd pick a different spot.
We saw Gervonta Davis in Baltimore. I got to see Amir Khan and Lamont Peterson in D.C. Like that. It's just fun. Now, no one's from Phoenix in that same kind of way, so there's not like this hometown reunion, which is what we were kind of describing there. But you mentioned it, Bud Crawford going back to Nebraska and whatnot.
Yes.
It's just fun when they go to boxing markets, or I should say just sports markets that are underserved. They don't get a lot of MMA. They don't get a lot of boxing. And when they do, it tends to be a much more fun atmosphere.
I'm interested to see that crowd. Not only will it be a mixture of the type of crowds Jake Paul brings, but will we get, a different type of boxing fan in there as well. Hey, let's go to Ramblin' Ralph. It's time to hear from the Spider.
Jury at the back there in the bar. You should have never doubted me. I'ma work to my last breath. I'ma hustle to my last breath. Yeah, you should have never doubted. The pain and the struggle followed me. But daddy laughing, that bothered me. And these cold streets made a man of me. There was time it'll come, they doubt me. Had to keep them OGs around me. Keep me down, young, on me grounded. You never know where your motivation to come from. We do the most with these bras and pop shine. They try to push you aside, you gotta fight some. I had a line on the thigh, and then we back guns. I want that number one spot, I'm like icon. I got that beast in my eyes, I'm like Tyson. With my heart in my drive, I know I'm righteous. Keep some ice on me, rocky like that boy. Once you win, you gon' want more. Set a tree and need an encore. I was down on my last when I found myself. I be a fighter to the end, to my last breath. I got angels all around me, yeah. I got love all around me, yeah. I'll be a fighter to the end, to my last breath. I'ma hustle to my last breath. I got angels all around me, yeah. I got love all around me, yeah. I be a fighter to the end, to my
All right, guys, once again, Ashton Sylve, legend and professional boxer now from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Again, longest reigning UFC champion in history, 16 consecutive UFC victories, and the most finishes in UFC title fights in history with 9. All right, guys, I'm here with the Spider, Ashton Sylve. Years ago, 2 brothers came up to you and they wanted to take your picture. You know where I'm going with this. We're gonna revisit this story for the folks out here that don't understand or never heard about this story. So you had 2 brothers that went up to you, wanted to take your picture. One of them said, "Hey, man, you're my idol." That guy that told you that is your opponent on Saturday night. How do you feel about that?
First of all, thank you for everyone to come. And I feel very happy because it's a 2 big generation come together to make a good show for everybody, you know. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm 47 and continue doing something for the old people here.
Now, in MMA, not only just in the UFC, but all the companies in general, it's real cut and dry. You sign a fight, you go fight, you wait for another fight, they sign you, you fight. In this sport, it's a little bit different, man. You went to Dubai a few months ago, a lot of drama there. They switched venues on you. You're supposed to fight on top of a helipad in Dubai. You ended up getting moved. I was actually there with you. We both actually went through that. Are you used to and do you enjoy kind of the drama, showtime, before the fight actually goes on?
Listen, can control everything here in my training when I come fight. But outside, I don't have control, you know, and sometimes a couple situations happen, but, you know, don't change my mind, don't change my focus.
I asked Uriah Hall a question. I'm going to ask you the same question. As a fighter, you're wired completely different than most. You get up, you're disciplined no matter what age is. When these fights come to you and they offer you these fights, what's the thought process that goes through your mind? Like, hey, I'm a fighter and I don't care until I'm 60 years old, I'm going to get in there, and if I'm in good shape, I can get it done? Or do you say, well, I mean, this is a challenge. I'm going to take it. I'm going to do it for my fans. Obviously, you have plenty of fans that are here supporting you. I mean, what drives you? What's the motivation?
Well, yeah, exactly. I just try to continue doing something for myself and for help the new generation believe in yourself, you know. And when I'm here, I feel completely survive, you know. That's my air. I do it because I love it. I don't do it for prove nothing for anybody. It's just because I love it.
Well, we can't wait till Saturday night. It's going to be awesome, man. Go ahead and make your way down to Morning Combat. I know they're going to be waiting for you. The media's waiting for you. Guys, another big round of applause. Ashton, the Spider, Silva.
The Spider, the legend, Ashton Sylve, knows how to work a crowd.
Yep. He's a what would you say, the elder statesman of the game, something like that?
The Godfather.
The Godfather.
Combat sports, all right, but only he's still got it. He's still delivering. He's
certainly
still
does.
bringing it. We'll see if that continues come Saturday night. A reminder about that pay-per-view: you can't purchase it right now. Why not just make your plans for the weekend today, this moment? Showtime.com/PPV can get you all dialed in, all ready to go for tonight. 4-fight pay-per-view main card. You're going to see Ashton Sylve, the rising unbeaten 7-0 MVP promotions prospect in that co-main event. How about Le'Veon Bell, Uriah Hall? How about Dr. Mike, Chris Avila? Hey, there's something for everybody on this card. You got to admit that, Luke Thomas.
There's a lot of strange, there's a lot of new, there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think that's exactly what they're going for in booking the card the way that they did.
Anderson Silva is going to take a quick lap around, meet with the media. We'll get him back here. Of course, we're all waiting for the arrival of Jake Paul. And I heard, Luke, that you don't want to miss this when it is time for entry here. He's done a few of them. Remember in Tampa, he jumped in the pool before the Woodley.
Oh, vaguely. Yes, now I do.
He's been known to make a splash, to make a statement. So we'll see what old Jake has cooked up for us. Maybe we get Julia Rose on set again. Who knows, right?
And maybe he'll just do the same thing where I'm just going to pretend she's not here.
I mean, she'll just follow me on Twitter and not you. So that's something to look in the mirror and think about.
You did follow her first, right? Is that what happened?
I don't know. I don't know about the order of operation there. I don't know if I need to comment on that. But we are here in Glendale, Arizona. The fans have turned out. They want to see some Spider. They want to see some Jake. The tension is building, the excitement, the anticipation. Are we going to see a knockout, though? Is it more likely, Luke, that this main event, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, goes the distance, or is it more likely that power for either one breaks through?
I said on MK today that I kind of feel like it goes the distance, but I don't know. I just don't know. I really, really, really don't know. I just don't know how this one's going to go. There's a massive unknowns with Jake and how much development he has made since the second Woodley fight. There's a lot of questions about the durability of Anderson, I think, as well. At age 47, you heard Uriah Hall reference some of those as well. So I think that, there's always a range of way fights could go. I think there's probably the likeliest scenarios it goes the distance, but I don't know, if just barely it's the likeliest. Just behind that is vicious KO, potentially in either direction.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that one. You can only find out by watching on Saturday night at Showtime. Pay-per-view is your platform. Anderson Silva continuing the media rounds. We saw our favorite translator, Martine, in the house there, doing great work with the PBC and Showtime here with us here. And also, we are waiting Jake Paul. I haven't seen Logan attach much to this build in this paper. I know he's a little bit busy with the pro wrestling side.
I suspect he'll be here on Fight Night.
Do you think he boxes again, Logan Paul? I mean, he made an interesting effort against Floyd Mayweather. He didn't get handled. He didn't get knocked out. 8-round exhibition.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, Logan kind of, moonlights and then moonlights and then moonlights. Jake at least has stuck with this for some time. I'd rather, they're going to do what they want to do. But I think, to me, it's a little bit more interesting to follow the guy who's stuck with it and, to this point, keeps raising the stakes, this time by taking on Anderson Silva.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird how quickly Jake has gone from Logan's little brother. He was Logan's little brother when he did the gotcha hat and stole Floyd's hat.
Right.
Since then, since Jake's moved to Showtime pay-per-view and the challenges he's taking on, we look at him certainly a lot differently, a bona fide marketing force so far. And you hear, I believe he's here. Here he comes. Let's watch it together. Here is Jake Paul. Days out from the fight. The problem child is upon us.
Two niggas in the back, that's 4 niggas riding strap in grandpa's Cadillac. The voice in my head said, fuck all these niggas. Then I start thinking, I should rob all these niggas. Man, my homies, they wanna do whatever I wanna do. I say I wanna beat this and shit.
Glendale, I need you to make some noise. Glendale, Arizona, make some noise. 21 million IG followers. 20 million YouTube followers. Promoter, professional boxer. Again, 5 victories, no defeats. 4 of his victories coming by way of knockout. the Sports Illustrated 2021 Breakout Boxer of the Year. From Cleveland, Ohio, the Problem Child, Jake Paul. Once again, Glendale, give it up for the Problem Child, Jake Paul.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I got the horses in the back, horse stock is attached, and it's made black.
Glendale, Arizona, give it up, the Problem Child, Jake Paul.
Been up off that porch now, can't nobody tell me nothing.
Wow, Jake Paul knows how to make an entrance here in Arizona on horseback. Problem bot in tow. He's an agitator, he's an entertainer, he's a social media savant, but Luke Thomas, he can punch too. Jake Paul, the boxer, is here for a little open public workout. How tall do you think the guy inside that suit is on the Problem bot?
Like 5'1".
All right. We see Canelo Alvarez on a horse a few times. How did Jake look? Comfortable on there? Mounted up?
I'm trying to process this for just a second. Let me see if I understand this. He comes in on the horse, and he has now not one but two Problem bots, BC.
Oh, there's two of them.
Look, there's one on over your left shoulder. You can see further in the distance. And then the normal Problem bot right in front of us. Also, I got to say, he's got an entourage with him, the population of Rhode Island.
I live next to Rhode Island, Luke. It's not that big, but this entourage is massive.
Hey, there he is. There he
A
is.
legend has approached us. Let's get right into it right here. The Spider is in town in Glendale, Arizona. I'll tell you what, he don't look 47 years old, Luke Thomas.
No, he doesn't.
Ashton Sylve. Great to see you still entertaining the crowd out here. How does this feel to be here?
Well, I try to do my best all the time, and I try to enjoy. That's I talk to my students or my sons in the home. You love your job, do your best, because the success will come when you love your job, and I love this.
How is your weight? Because this is back at not quite 185, but at 187. How are you able to manage the weight at 47 years old?
Well, for me it's easy because I never stop training and I never stop to cut my weight because I put in my mind. So I continue to stay in a good shape and good performance every time. And that's I don't stop to training. When I have a time, I just make the special time to cut my weight. When I have a training, when I don't have a fight, I just training. I just say, okay, in 1 week I go take the 5 or 7 kilos, and that's I cut my weight easy.
I gotta say, it looks like you're having the most fun I've seen you have in a long time. Are you like? How do you feel? Are you feel like you're? I don't know, reborn or something. You have a smile on your face every time I see you.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Look, I'm 47, and it's two big generations. Nobody in my generation, the same age as me, doing something I do right now. You know, I'm so lucky. I'm so happy to continue doing something for help to inspire the new generation, you know.
It's incredible what you're doing. We can see on the monitor Jake Paul doing his public workout, getting in the jump rope, the punches. You've seen some tape on him as a boxer, 5-0. What do you have to focus on the most when preparing to box Jake Paul?
Jake is he's a young, he's a fast, he's a strong, and I try to use my whole experience and my training to help me to make this fight perfect for me, you know.
What did you learn boxing Julio Cesar Chavez in Mexico? When the fight was over, what did you take away from that experience?
Wow, you know, it's so special for me because when I remember that, how much I lucky, you know, because Julio Cesar Chavez accept the fight and give him the opportunity to prove my respect for boxing community, and I'm so lucky.
Now look, Jake has been the problem child. He rubs people the wrong way and pokes at them. He hasn't gotten under your skin, it seems, at all. I don't even know if he's trying to. Is this different for you to see so much respect from young Jake to you?
Well, I think it's a different energy, it's a different vibe, you know, and I respect Jake a lot, you know, and I think my goal is come here and do my best for prove my respect for boxing community and make the good show for everybody in this town, you know. It's so amazing.
All right, Jake, I saw on All Access brought in Chad Dawson, a 2-division champion, former pro boxer, to spar with. Did you bring in anyone special to spar with to prepare for Jake?
Oh yeah, I bring a lot of young kids to help me. You know, is 2 medalist champion in Brazil. I bring the 2 professional fights, the London, and I train with my sons too. Khalil and Gabriel help me a lot. You know. Everett is a gold medal, come to help me. You know, I have little Nico help me a lot. He's come to the Olympic tournament to United States, and Eliezer helped me a lot. I have a fight too, and I have a lot of people helping to take this fight.
Have any of your old opponents, we saw you with Chael at the press conference, but forget about him, have any of your old MMA opponents reached out to you ahead of this fight to, I don't know, say something, wish you good luck? Who has talked to you from your past about this fight?
Wow, I talked to a lot of people, especially my grandmaster, Minotauro, yes. And I talk to me and they say, bro, just do it. Do your best.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, what was your family's reaction when they heard that you're not going to retire, not going to sit by the pool, you're going to box a 25 or 26-year-old in Jake Paul?
Wow. For my family, is not a problem, you know, because the last time when I talked about that, I say, listen, this is my dream. This is my life. And I'm working hard for make the good life for everybody in this house. Just give them the space for live my dream, you know, and that's how I do my best.
We talk to a lot of MMA fighters who try boxing, and one thing they always say is that on their body they feel better, that the training doesn't cause as much injury as it does training MMA, the training of the boxing. How do you feel?
I mean, it's 2 different types, you know, because MMA, you need to training the different disciplines, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, and Jiu-Jitsu, and this is hard, and it's very hard. And then boxing is different because you need to work in footwork, you need to work in your hands, and a more strategy, you know. It's a 2 hard sports and different disciplines and different rules.
Well, this is weird, right, Anderson? This whole thing is weird?
Does it intimidate you to see these robots walking around?
I love robots.
Anderson, you know what I loved about you on All Access? You showed your room with all the action figures.
That's I love.
Tell me about that childlike spirit inside of you.
I have a collection for many years in my entire life. You know, I have the little collection toys, G.I. Joes. My mom buy for me for years ago, years. And I have the special room when I leave more time, when I try to put in something in the paper, my moves, the script. I stay there and I just working and stay there for relax.
Do your kids think you're a nerd?
João is little nerd. He's a young guy, but he's little nerd.
All right, let me ask you this about fighting a Paul brother and this opportunity. Nate Diaz was here because his teammate Chris Avila is boxing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do you look at Nate Diaz, if you defeat Jake Paul, do you look at Nate Diaz as a future boxing opponent potentially?
Listen, Nick and Nate Diaz is the special boxers. The guys have a good boxer. I think is the best boxer in MMA is Nick Diaz and Nick Diaz. And I believe in these guys when I come in this different level, change everything.
What's weirder, this or Nick Diaz laying down in the octagon?
Wow. You know, I'm lucky because Nick gave me the opportunity to back to fight because I broke my leg and I'm back to training to fight with Nick, and I respect both. He's so amazing, guys.
How hard was that comeback? Because we know Conor McGregor had to come back from something pretty similar.
Wow.
Walk us through like the difficulty there. People don't understand.
Too. Yeah, yes. It's very tough. It's very tough. It's not easy.
No.
You got to be mentally tough to pull that off.
Mentally, your family need your help. You need to make more focus for doing a lot of things to come better. You know, it's tough.
I want to ask you about the mental toughness because you don't seem to be afraid of anything. Was there ever a time in your career when you may not have believed in yourself the same level that you normally did, that you needed a pep talk to be able to get back out there?
The secret is, I think for me, the secret is I'm born in a martial arts discipline, you know, in the philosophy of the martial arts. And this helped me a lot when I have a problem in my life, because everybody have a problem in life. And when I have a couple problems, the same like when I broke my leg, when I hurt my shoulder, I just come to back home and just try to understand what happened to me, and I'm using the whole martial arts philosophy to help me to back.
I was saying that I've never seen you upset when another fighter talks trash.
The face-off against Vitor Belfort, you were upset,
so
right?
I want to ask you, with the mask.
Let me tell you about the mask. So, I'm in Vegas. In Vegas, you have the dancing show. Jabberwockies. It's my friends. The guys is my friends. And I take my kid because Khalil love dancing, love everything, and I say, Dad, let's go. I say, okay. And I bring Khalil with me. And the guys giving a lot of stuff for Khalil. And in the night in the room, Khalil in the other bed, and then Khalil start talking. Dad, I have the Diaz. And I say, what? Tell me. And I say, Dad, why you don't using this mask? I say, why? Tomorrow, using this mask, it's so funny because Vitor say, you mask and that, just use the mask. I say, okay, I go use it. And when I go to sleep, I say, I don't go use the mask. The kids is crazy. And I take the mask and put it inside the bag. And what happened today? Khalil take the mask. And when I walk in, and Khalil just, and when I look at it, give the mask, and he just put in the mask, and I'll say, okay. And that's Khalil idea.
Anderson, do you want to take a boxing fight back to Brazil? You fought in the Middle East, you fought in Mexico, here you're fighting in the United States. Obviously, you had great wins in MMA in Brazil. Is there a part of you that would love to take a big boxing event down there?
Absolutely. I think in Brazil, you have a lot of fans for boxing, you know, and I try to create something to move more the boxing community in Brazil. You know, my coach Dória, have a show in Bahia, and I asked him to, Coach, let me fight because it's too close. It's 1 month, and they say no, you can't fight. But let me help, and probably that's in my mind too, in my plans to doing something.
Anderson, we wish you well. We're gonna keep going with you. I cannot believe you're here, man. I cannot believe at 47 you're still doing this. You're still seeking the biggest fights available to you. How long can you keep doing this?
I don't know. I know that's the good question.
You're an alien. You are an alien. Do you understand that? You're an alien.
I think this is a good question, but not for me, for God. You know, because every single time when I wake up, I just pray and say, God, thank you for everything you give for me, because I feel I can doing this more and more and more.
Anderson, when you approach an opponent like Jake Paul, who has obviously done something but is still pretty new in the fight game, do you come up with a strict game plan? How much of it is, I'm going to do this, and how much of it is, I'm going to feel out and see how it goes?
Well, the strategy is training. My training and my strategy is just go to win. You know, just cut the whole space and try to do my best for stop Jake. you know, because fight is fight. Doesn't matter he's not experienced or not, but fight is fight, you know.
Is there a part of you, though, that, like, you want to be an entertainer, right? You have always been an entertainer, and you always want to give to the fans. Is there a part of you that factors that in to the game plan a little bit?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
You know, because I go to win, I come to training hard to win this fight.
All right, we're going to go to the ring, and Jake Paul Anderson, we wish you well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
It's an honor, Anderson. Thank
the
you.
legend, Anderson Silva. Let's go to the ring
guys,
with Jake
I'm here
Paul.
with the problem child, Jake Paul. Jake, you have control of almost every entity in your life. Your social media, your podcast, better. Bro, you came in here on a horse and Transformers, bro. That was pretty dope, by the way. I ain't going to hate. The only thing that you really don't have control over sometimes is your opponents, man. And I know that you train really hard. Jay Leon's a good friend of mine. BJ's a good friend of mine. I know them dearly. And they say you're one of the hardest working fighters they've ever worked with. But does it frustrate you as a promoter as well to set this stuff up and then have stuff fall through for you?
Hey, it does, but we here now. We here now. I'm about to show out on Saturday. We got an amazing crowd, an amazing city, and everything happens for a reason. So I'm just excited to put on a show, and I'm trying to get that KO of the year part 2.
And that's it. Segue into my next question, bro. You sat there, you took a picture with this man. You said he's your idol on multiple platforms, multiple interviews. How do you feel, man, come Saturday night, face-to-face, when your idol becomes your rival?
Hey, man, that's how you know you made it. And what's crazy is there could be kids out here that one day maybe fight me, okay? And that's the power of a dream. And you never know what's going to happen. And to be fighting my idol this weekend, it means a lot. He's a GOAT of combat sports. He's one of the greatest strikers ever. I respect this man so much. I looked up to him. And he told me that I could do whatever I want and I could accomplish whatever I want in my life if I set my mind to it when I was a kid. And now I'm setting my mind to beating him.
From day one, I've told everybody that it takes a lot of work as an athlete to build the following that you have, regardless of you becoming an athlete beforehand. You've done it before. You got your podcast. You worked your ass off to get all those followers and all these companies around you in your circle. Now, the real question is, do you have the ability to overcome the Spider and all those events, all those fights, all those rounds? Do you have what it takes? You have an all-star team here, right? You've worked with all these trainers. They know what they're talking about. Danny, BJ, all these guys. You have a cut man who I think is one of the best in the world, and Bob Ware. You got everybody around you. Does beating Anderson Silva solidify you and give you the respect that you deserve?
100%. And I have more than what it takes. And after Saturday night, people will believe that. But I'm a champion at heart. And that's my greatest attribute, is my heart and the power of my mind. And on Saturday, I'm going to leave it all out there in the ring, and we're going to get the job done.
Bro, you came in with Transformers, bro. That was pretty dope, man. Guys, give it up right now, the problem child. Jake Paul in the building. He takes on the Spider, Anderson Silva. Showtime pay-per-view on Saturday. Do not miss it. If you cannot be here, Showtime pay-per-view, showtime.com/PPV. MVP in the building. Ramblin' Ralph, Crisco Kid in the house. Let's go.
Wow, you know it's a big fight when we get a horse, we get an MMA legend, we get a social media influencer, and we get 2 problem bots. Take that, Transformers.
And a horse.
I mentioned that horse,
Oh, yeah,
too.
sorry,
All right, Jake Paul in the ring. We'll hopefully be chatting with him in just a few. Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, Morning Combat, your host, will also be
Uriah Hall's favorite.
Uriah Hall's
podcast.
favorite. Will also be a big part of Saturday's broadcast. Just a reminder, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown preliminary show. We're going to have 2 or 3 fights, us breaking things down, special guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. Use that as your appetizer, of course, for all things Paul Silva pay-per-view, 9 p.m. Eastern Saturday night. You can like and subscribe to the channels below. If you want a little bit more BC and LT in your weekly combat fix. Luke, I would love to get to the level where I have 2 man-sized robots following me around. I mean, this is just... Love it, you know, hate it or love it, the underdog's on top, and he's got 2 giant robots.
How do you think the guys inside those suits smell?
you know, if we can get an exclusive with Problem Bot 2, the addition, the offspring, I would like to get that. But how about Anderson coming out to DMX? That's old school.
Yeah, that is old school. And I don't know, it felt like a blast from the past, didn't it? For guys like us who've been on the beat following his fights, I don't know. It felt real good to see him out here. It felt like at home again.
He's so happy, Anderson Silva.
So happy.
So happy.
And good for him. Good for him, right? He deserves to be happy, win or lose. Obviously, you know, the best guy deserves to win, whether that's Jake or whether that's Anderson. But you just want to see a legend like that smile and feel like he's honored and rewarded for all what he's given to the fans. And it seems like he's feeling it, BC.
Well, our fans have told us that, you know, they'd ride if we ever used the term bringing him his flowers again. But, you know, Jake and really the combat sports community have given Anderson his flowers
I didn't
in the
make
build-up
up the
to
term.
this.
I'm just using what the kids use.
You know, using and abusing the term, but it's apt. It's apropos this week. My question, and it'll be my first question to Jake when he sits down, is when does that flip? When does that switch flip? And it ain't about respect anymore, taking the picture again with an older Logan and Anderson by our side. It's about dethroning that legend. It's about throwing down. That's what these two will do finally come Saturday night when the wait is over. Jake making the final media rounds here before he sits down with us and we bring to a close what has been a fun and dynamic here as I see the horse in the distance there, Luke. Open workout here in Glenville. How about Glendale, Arizona? The Desert Diamond Arena, the backdrop right behind us where the fights will take place come Saturday night. What's your favorite thing about Arizona so far, Luke?
Ooh, I got to say, the Mexican food out here is pretty good. It's pretty good. I will say that.
Yeah, I've had low class and high class so far since I got here, and they both lived up to the expectations. Okay?
That's fair. That's fair.
That may describe the two of us, low class and high class.
Worthless is the way I would describe it.
Would be the better way to describe it. Nobody gets you inside the action like your boys from MK. Special thanks to everybody that sat down with us today on this program. If you're watching this live on YouTube or on
thank you for
Jake
watching.
Paul's TikTok account, wherever you're catching this right now, we appreciate you. We appreciate our great guest. Uriah Hall shared his dislike for us, but I think he came around to like us in the end. You know what I'm saying?
He is not the first fighter who has disliked us, and he will not be the
He
last.
will
but he is worthy of your respect. I do respect what he's up to, and I expect him to win. I really do. Le'Veon Bell is obviously doing his thing, but that's a fight Hall should win.
It's interesting that he said, I want nothing to do with fighting Anderson again. It's my hero.
Right.
It was like fighting
Good
my
point.
father first time. But he'd made no bones about it. That man right there, Jake Paul, if available, Uriah Hall would love to enter himself into that conversation.
What was your favorite part, BC?
Of this event today?
Yeah.
I think it was the horse. You know? You know, it's just like...
When was the last time you rode a horse?
I did on my honeymoon.
Did you really?
Yeah, we rode horses in Mexico into the ocean.
Wow.
But my horse's name was the Goat, and he would just randomly sit down and like go spread eagle on the ground, and I'd fall off the saddle. It was very scary.
Yeah,
okay?
well,
you know what I mean. You know, I shouldn't be trusted around a horse really, or a broadcast. But here we are hosting this great event for you. Jake Paul making the last of his media rounds, just 5-0. Still so young in this game. The addiction, the bug caught him. But Luke Thomas, you'd be kidding yourself if you say you expected him to be at this point at 5-0.
I honestly never thought he would take that. I thought after the Hasim Rahman fight fell through, because obviously it was supposed to be Tommy Fury, then Rahman. Yes. And then there was a moment there was like, do they go back to Fury? And obviously they didn't. It didn't work out. And so he was like, I'm just going to raise the bar, because Tommy Fury is a professional boxer, but I feel like with Anderson Silva, there's just a little bit more at stake. It's certainly a much bigger name. And in terms of the craftiness of Silva, it's certainly its own kind of very difficult task.
Absolutely. The stage is as bright as it's ever been for Jake entering this one, as it seems that, everyone who said, okay, he's only going to get so much challenge or experience from the type of guys who've been fighting incrementally. Well, Anderson is that different type of dude. Do you think Jake, I don't want to say he was forced into it, because he admitted openly and says, look, the other guys fell out. I decided, hey, let's just go for the biggest fight available. It would seem like maybe, as Jake put it himself during All Access, the universe kind of forced his hand and forced him in this direction. But to his credit, he didn't hesitate.
This is the really interesting point, right? It's like, did he take this at just the right time, in which case he's about to have a massive moment, or did he rush into this moment,
Yes.
in which case he's about to have a reality check. That really is, to me, BC, maybe you feel differently, but for me, that's the central tension of this fight, because there's no denying he took a huge step up in asking for Anderson Silva. Either that's going to pay massive dividends, or it's going to be massively, well, I won't say catastrophic, but certainly a setback if he loses.
If you're wondering, on those video screens on the problem bot number 1 and 2's chest, they are playing highlights of Jake Paul's greatest hits. There's a knockout of Ben Askren on the black and white robot. There's also a purple robot running around here. One day they'll take all of our jobs, including this one right here. One day this stream will be hosted by Problem Bot 1 and 2. We had a good run, though.
Yeah, you know, well, who could blame them?
Who could really blame
Who really
them?
could blame them?
They turn off and plug in at night. It's a great deal for everybody. We are just a few minutes away from getting the thoughts of the problem child, Jake Paul himself. It has been a wild event here, to say the least.
Hey, can we thank the crew?
Outside, our crew is fantastic, especially the guy with the American flag bandana around his neck.
Who's just walking around aimlessly.
Yeah, I love that guy. I love the guy. He's picking up spare trash, though. He's really doing his part for this. Big fan of that guy. If he can walk onto set randomly, I would love to get the people to... No, they won't let him. Okay. We have had a great show. Celebrity breakdowns. Hey, Jake von Amsterdam, the documentarian, if you're an MK fan, is lingering around this area.
Yeah,
so.
and not on his phone.
Not on his phone
Which
at
is
all.
a new thing. I don't really understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's see if
I'm actually so used to not seeing his face, because it's usually buried.
Yeah, that's a good point. We are off the rails at the end of this great... Hey, thank you, though, for everybody that stayed with us. We are
By the way, speaking of stick around, there's still a fair amount of fans out here.
They want to get their moment with Jake Paul. He attracts the eyes. He attracts the eyes. He attracts the ears. We're about a couple minutes away from hearing his final thoughts as the horse he rode on is getting ready for the exit. Let's see if he takes that all the way back to the fight hotel. Maybe the all-access cameras will follow that. That cameraman almost fell over right there. That's
There's a
great.
cameraman in front of us who almost just bought the farm.
Yeah,
right here.
Just knocked over all the cameras that we're watching here. But we mentioned Anderson coming out to the DMX. That's his thing. I'm excited about that.
It is. It's been a sort of Ain't No Sunshine cover, essentially the DMX cover.
Yes.
It's famous in MMA circles.
Look, let's get a shot of this horse that's being parked right behind us.
Right behind us. Here's the horse.
They have
everyone.
valet parking here at the event at the arena, so the horse is posted up and ready.
True story. In Arizona, you can ride a horse or a car anywhere you want to go. That's just what happens.
Okay.
I might have made that up, but
you might have made that up. Yeah. There you go.
Hey, you think the horse likes a little Tupac diss tracks?
No doubt. We'd mentioned before that the hay is in the barn, right? For these fighters preparing. That horse can't wait to get there. He's going to eat the crud out of that. How long, if I went on a spree of dad jokes right now, how long before they pulled the plug? That's really my question.
I think they're just going to let us squirm.
All right. Who gave us dad jokes today? Dr. Mike? You throw us a little.
Dr. Mike had some dad jokes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Is he a dad?
No, he's not. But there's the
here's a big horse over the right side of my shoulder.
Very attractive horse over Luke's shoulder there.
Are they going to bring the horse on camera? Yeah, they're going to bring the horse on camera. All right, well, this is a new thing.
Luke, you've interviewed a lot of different players in the combat sports space. What is this horse's name, Handler? Handler, what is this horse's name?
Jesus, fuck. Dude, hold on. Here's a true story.
Can I get a little love from this guy or what?
Can we pet him or not? Yes.
What's his name?
Hey, buddy.
The Donald. His name is the Donald.
Hi,
Luke.
buddy.
Wow.
So it's a true story. I got bit by a horse in New Orleans one time, and it was a police horse.
Yeah,
so
boy.
I'm a little bit shy.
Was its name Butterscotch? Or yeah, all right. That was a movie reference. There we go. The Donald, the horse that Jake Paul rode in on, is here joining our live stream.
What's up,
Big
bro?
fan of the Don right here. Oh, look at this guy. Look, he's
pulling my chair.
Wow, I think
he's biting my chair. He's biting my chair.
They call that second base in the dating world, Luke. That's fantastic. Wow.
Is the
All right.
Donald? Oh, he's very mouthy.
He's mouthy, they say.
But he's a sweet guy. Hey,
he
Hey,
gets
buddy.
a little mouthy. I mean, kind of like Jake, right? The problem child. This is the problem horse, the Donald. Wow. Luke, I felt something when he exhaled on me.
Okay. Is he going to bite me?
Because
horses have bit me before.
I would cover your groin just in case, just in case there, Luke.
What's
There
up,
we go.
homie? Are you smelling all the drugs?
Oh, wow. The Donald has found what he's looking for.
How old is this horse? He's 10 years?
10 years old. Wow. Wow, the horse.
And the loud music doesn't bother him? Nope.
No, he's a big
What's up,
Tupac
homie?
fan.
Hey, what's up, bro? What's up, bro?
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
Donald,
What's up, bro?
Donald's my guy. The Donald. Wow.
Hey, look look who we have
wow,
here.
Look at this. A future presidential nominee.
Hey, look at
Julia
this.
Rose for president is here in us.
What's up, homie? What's up?
She is a social media influencer herself, the significant other of the problem child, Jake Paul. Julia Rose, welcome back
I'm invited
to Showtime
this time.
Sports. This time you didn't just crash. We requested you. Now that we follow each other on Twitter, Julia Rose,
do.
we're really
We're
we're
best
taking
friends.
this relationship to the next level.
This horse
okay?
is biting my
Are
chair.
you horsing around over there?
Yes, I'm horsing around. Yes, exactly. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready.
How are you feeling this fight week as compared to like the first or second Woodley fights?
I mean, second Woodley fight, we knew what we were kind of going into, so it's kind of different. I mean, this is a new opponent. We don't really know what to expect. I mean, we kind of know, but we don't really know. And so it's a new opponent. It's another fight week. I think this one's different because we had 2 build-ups and we didn't get a fight. So it's like we have all that energy built up behind it, but we're ready to go.
How do you view adapted? Now, I don't want to say adapted to the spotlight, but people know who you are before this, but now you're on All Access on Showtime leading up to this. Now we're seeing you interviewing Stephen A. Smith on podcasts. You're making headlines. How have you enjoyed being a part of this traveling circus of the show? I mean, we got a horse.
I know, we got a horse. I mean, I'm from Texas, so this is like great to me. We got a horse. I'm like at home, but I think just adapting the spotlight really is just staying true to yourself and not really paying too much attention to it, and really just being a support system for Jake and, you know, being as hands-on as I can.
How's Jake?
Jake's great.
Right? In terms of like,
He's
no,
over there.
but I mean, what I'm saying is, again, for the same question for him, in terms of the previous fight weeks, at this point and those ones, how does it compare?
I mean, even we watched, you know, he was sparring last night, and I was like, he looked so sharp, just ready to run through like a concrete wall. And like I said, the energy I think built up from not getting to fight has just fueled him that much more. And each fight, he just looks better and better and better.
Is it better?
Better. Download better. BETR.
Right. Oh, here we go.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
The house lights are on here.
Is it better that he doesn't have beef with this opponent?
I don't think it matters to Jake.
Okay.
I think Jake will, no matter what, he's getting a ring and he's, you know, fighting for his life. So it's like no matter who's on the other side of the ring, it's Jake no matter what. Oh, I think he's coming. This is my.
All right, we'll swap out the great
We'll
Julia
talk to you
Rose.
later. There he is.
Is it another interview with them?
We interviewed a horse just now,
Hey,
Jake. You
we
missed
met
it.
we
All
met
right.
your horse. He bit my chair.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, he's pissed off. Hey
Jake
guys.
Paul, the problem child is here.
Hey.
Jake, I got to start off with this question, okay?
That's
It's been all fun and games, bowing down reverence to the legend Anderson Silva. When does that switch flip for you?
Saturday. Yeah, man, I'm getting that. I'm carrying that Mamba mentality into this fight. I watched the Redeem team, and he was teammates with Paul Gasol. And they were,
and Kobe leveled him.
Yeah, just took him out. They just won the championship, and he just made the point that, look, we could be friends, but this is a competition, and that's the energy I'm carrying into Saturday night.
Where did you get the idea for the horse?
Me and my friend were just talking like, yo, what should we do for the open workout? And I was like, I should just ride in on a horse.
Now,
And we just made it happen.
For the guy
How
that
did it look?
It looked pretty badass.
We gotta be honest. He teased that we were just told to expect something. We didn't know what.
Oh, wow.
And then I saw the horse, and I was like, wow, this dude keeps on.
You look like a badass
Keeps on doing
gaucho.
it.
For the guy that has everything, it might be hard to shop for you, but they bought you a second problem bot. Does this world need 2 of them?
Yeah, no, that's the Better bot. So Better is my company. Download Better. Stop playing with me. And yeah, the Better bot. So we got 2 mascots now. They're gonna fight actually.
Wait, the mascots are going to fight each other?
Yeah, I don't know when, but some point this
With
week.
the suit on.
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to get medieval
Hey,
up on that.
So this was a famous story when Matt Serra won the season 4 of The Ultimate Fighter. He had a fight lined up with GSP. It didn't happen, so they had to do 2 camps back to back. And when Serra won that fight against all odds, he specifically said it was the second camp back to back where he got all the extra rounds of sparring, all the extra time in there. That was what he said made the difference. You have had cancellations, changes, and the whole 9 yards. You've been training consistently for how long now?
Like a good 7 months
right.
straight.
So on the one hand, you have to worry about burnout. On the other hand, that's a lot of extra rounds. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, no, like everything happens for a reason, and the fight getting moved, I got a couple extra months to prepare and to get better behind the scenes and behind the curtains. We took a little bit of a break, so my body got to rest, so there wasn't overtraining. But we got right back to it basically after about a week. And all of those extra rounds against the Southpaw really, really paid off. And so I'm just excited, man. I'm excited to show the world this new fighter that I am. And like I said, I've only been doing this for 2.5 years. So
I can get exponentially better in just a couple of months.
But you're taking on more responsibility than a traditional fighter, even a pay-per-view fighter. You're the promoter, basically.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot social media-wise, as always, to promote yourself. Is there any fear that takes away from the focus at hand?
No, I mean, my focus is always boxing. Number one priority when I wake up in the morning, and I have, like 30 people on my team that help me with the content and the posting and all of these things, so I get to just show up and do what I do best. But I have ADHD, man, and I've always done a bunch of things. So if I'm just like sitting there after boxing not doing anything, I think that would drive me more crazy than wanting to get more stuff done and make content or whatever.
Okay, when you are a promoter as well as a fighter, you have to look ahead. I thought you strategically put Tommy Fury on one of your undercards back in the day. You agreed with it just to see what it looks like. You got Anderson Silva. I'm not asking you to look past Anderson Silva. But, like, Uriah Hall's here. I saw Nate Diaz walking around. Is there always a potential future Jake Paul opponent lingering behind Jake Paul at all times?
Always. Always. Yeah, and I think you were the first person to really pick up on that. But, yeah, that's how we like to work. I don't look past my opponents, but, like...
You plan for the future?
Yeah, and I know what I'm capable of in the ring. And so... Yeah, we like to build storylines and narratives, and so I think there's a potential people here. There's a couple people here that potentially I could fight in the future.
Sorry, this horse is just all up on me. Tell me what you saw on tape when Anderson Silva fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. What did you see?
I saw a really good fighter in Anderson Silva, a really good boxer. He uses his range really well. He had really good defense. He fought in the pocket. He was fighting off of his back foot. He was fighting coming forward. He had power. He was, making Chavez put away his punches. And so, yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of good. The horse is beating you up,
does not like you at all. Okay?
He's like, get the fuck out of my
Okay, what's more ridiculous for the two Paul brothers when you were that age of that picture with Anderson? You fighting Anderson Silva on a boxing pay-per-view or your brother main eventing against Roman Reigns at Survivor Series? What's more just like, I can't believe we're in this,
I think all of it combined. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that I get to do this, combat sports with my brother, he's, fighting one of the biggest names in combat sports in Roman Reigns. I'm fighting Anderson Silva, and we're doing it back to back. It's serendipitous. Like, who planned this? The universe is working together, man. And it's just so cool, man. It's so weird. When I got into the ring, I started jumping rope, and I just looked up at, like, all the billboards here and the screens, and I just, like, giggled because I was just like, this is surreal. Like, how did we get here?
It is pretty surreal. I mean, there's a damn horse chewing on my co-worker. It is surreal. Wow, I'm cubed.
Bro, he's like, I don't know, what did I do?
A piece of that. All right. You're smart enough that you welcome the haters. You want the haters to buy your pay-per-views, buy your tickets to come see you. So
haters are customers.
The critical response is this.
Goddamn right.
Okay, Jake, 5-0. Good luck. Nice job. But as soon as you lose, that bubble bursts and we'll never see you again in boxing. Your response to that is?
No, I mean, I think, man, I love this sport. I love this sport so much. I'll always be in this sport. And don't judge someone by their wins. Judge them by their losses. And it's people like Anthony Joshua who lose but come back every single time and come back with heart. The world can only beat you up if you let it. The world can only put you down if you let it. And man, I don't think there's anything. I don't think I can lose anything in life. I've already won. I've already won at everything I've done. Like, look at where I'm at, man. Like, I'm 25 years old. I wasn't supposed to accomplish this at all. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was counted out. I was always the underdog. I was laughed at for my ideas that seemed ludicrous. I already won, man. I could retire from the couple years of work that I've done. And to me, that means everything. My family is set. My mom's set. My dad's set. And my kids will be set. So that's all that really matters, man. So I'm already won. And the rest is just bonus right now.
Assuming everything goes your way on Saturday, when do you think you get back in there? Because you've had a long time off dealing with all these changes and everything else. When do you want to get back out there, assuming that goes well?
Yeah, it'll probably be soon.
because for some reason it feels like I've fought this year, but I haven't. So I'll probably try to get back into the ring pretty quickly, and I'm just always training now. It's like it's a lifestyle. If I wake up and I don't box, I'm just like not myself. So now I'm almost like I have to do it just for my own mental clarity and my own peace of mind.
All right, let's close with this, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Your fights up to this point have either been early knockouts or in the two Woodley fights, they were kind of technical. There was a lot of adjusting. If your fight with Ashton Sylve just becomes a war, you okay with that? You ready for that?
100%. That's why I rode in on the horse. I'm ready for battle. I'm ready to go out on my shield, and he's going to have to bring a whole lot of stuff to get me to quit.
Wow. There it is right there.
I can't wait.
The problem child, Jake Paul, Saturday night Showtime pay-per-view. Anderson Silva, best of luck to you.
Thank you, guys.
This has already been a fun show.
Thank
All right,
you, guys.
this has been wild. Shout out to the Donald.
See you Saturday.
Shouts, bro.
There he is, the star of the show, Jake Paul. Luke, I didn't expect that we would close with this guy, the Donald. Big fan. Look at the love he shows me compared to you. Look at that. He can smell that you're untrustworthy, Luke. He can smell that on you. Yeah.
Say again? Oh, he says I smell good.
Yeah, I doubt
That's why he wants to be all up on me.
We thank the Donald and his fantastic team for showing up. Many problem
Thanks,
bots
buddy.
here.
Nice to see
Special
you.
thanks to you, the viewer, for sitting through and watching us. We got to see some great chats, some workouts with some of the biggest names. It goes down Saturday. It's Jake Paul, it's Anderson Sylve, it's also Uriah Hall, it's also Le'Veon Bell, Dr. Mike, Chris Avila, Ashton Sylve, so much more. We'll be there with you to kick things off Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Showtime Sports YouTube channel. Come with us for the Countdown Show. We'll call fights. We got interviews with horses. 9 p.m. Eastern is the start of that pay-per-view Saturday. Our final pitch to you. Order it right now. Showtime.com/PPV. Get ahead of the game. Start plan your party now. Luke, any closing thoughts here with the Donald?
If don't do it for me, do it for the Donald. He's a nice guy.
Oh, he looked. Wow. Yeah, for the Donald. For Julia Rose for president, and Jake Paul, Anderson Sylve, and everyone else, thank you for taking the time. I'm Brian Campbell. This is Luke Thomas. We host the award-winning Combat Sports digital series on Showtime. Morning Combat. Check us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, live at 11 a.m. in the East. Luke Thomas, it's time to take this home, okay? 3 hours, baby, right?
We did it.
That's what we bring to the show,
what we
okay?
did. What's up, homie?
2 words for you. Enjoy the fights this Saturday. The final 2 are, we out.
Never been a fighter in the history of the sport where you know their first 5 fights. You didn't know Floyd's first 5. You didn't know Tyson's first 5. The impact that I'm able to have here on this sport, setting a new standard for what it takes to be successful. I probably needed more experience to go in with a champion like this. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's not advised. I love a challenge. I want to do the unthinkable. I want to baffle people, and I want to upset people because that's what turns heads. That's what creates history. That's what makes people respect me for taking a massive risk. I'm not afraid to earn it. I'm not afraid of the uphill battle. It's either step up to the plate or be a bitch. I'm not going to be a bitch ever. Respectfully, I will knock out one of the greatest fighters in the history of combat sports. The Disney kid, the YouTuber. They're not a real fighter. They're not going to believe it.